o'clock now. I'd like to bring our April 11th, 2023 Board of Supervisors meeting to order. At this time, I'd ask Patty Cooper if she would do our invocation, followed with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone stand, please.
Lord, Father and God in heaven, I thank you for allowing us to assemble here this evening. I pray that all the things that we do are pleasing to you, and that each and every person here is blessed, and we appreciate them coming, appreciate you giving them the health and the strength to be here. I ask that you bless every person here and continue to bless them as they leave this building. Amen.
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 I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Patty.
Yes, sir.
Like I say, I'm glad to see the room full tonight, and everybody came out. We'll continue now. I would like to know if any of the board members have a conflict of interest on any of our matters.
No.
David, Jerry,
No, sir. No.
all y'all good? All right. Recognitions is next. Crystal? Crystal. Is someone filling in for her?
Hey, Cheryl.
All right.
How is everybody today?
You.
Fine, thank you.
I knew he was gonna do it.
Recognition is an opportunity for the Board of Supervisors to recognize achievement in our community with a focus on the accomplishments of students, employees, and our citizen volunteers who serve the county of Prince Edward. Would Stephanie and Donna come up, please? Should that make it full? The board would like to recognize Stephanie Baffert as Employee of the Month for April. Mrs. Baffert has worked in the treasurer's office for over 17 years. She goes above and beyond to make herself available to assist other departments. Her get the job done mentality keeps everyone on their toes, and her generous spirit is unmatched. Stephanie has been and continues to be an asset for Prince Edward Community. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Position.
Good job.
You too short. So short.
Do I need to switch names?
Good. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's see, now we'll have Board of Supervisors comments. Dessa?
Do not have public participation first.
Oops, did I miss one?
Public
I'm
participation.
sorry, I did.
I'm sorry.
What do we got on the sheet? Somebody have to forgive me, I move along pretty quick sometimes.
That's okay.
First speaker is James Coleman, Prospect.
Jimmy? you would step up to the podium.
That'd be later.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
So wait.
yeah, just
Yeah.
wait, Jimmy.
Howard Armistead, please.
In the wrong direction. Thank you. I'm Howard Armstead from living in Farmville, Virginia. And I'm an AIDS, Ebola, and COVID-19 researcher. I just wanted to remind the County Board of Supervisors that COVID isn't over. The mortality, the deaths are way down to about 1,600 a week nationwide. That's about 100,000 a year. But you don't know if that's going to come back up again. It hasn't gone away. It's probably not going to go away entirely. And of course, we've got the H5N1 influenza virus that could be many times worse than COVID. And we don't know when that can strike in the next couple of years, possibly. I've done a very brief survey comparing Prince Edward County to some other counties around here, Albemarle County, Buckingham County, Mecklenburg County, and the state of Virginia as a whole. On vaccination rates, Prince Edward County is in the bottom 10% in the state. So we're not doing too good. We've only got 46% of people that are fully vaccinated. And what that's resulted in is we have almost a 30% higher mortality rate, death rate, compared to the state of Virginia as a whole. We can see where the vaccination rates are the highest, such as in Albemarle County. They've got the lowest case mortality rates. So vaccination really works. It keeps you from getting sick, from getting to the hospital, and being and dying. In fact, we had I got an example of one 22-year-old. He was an athletic coach here in Prince Edward County, and when Omicron came in, he got the COVID and he died. He wasn't vaccinated. If he had been vaccinated, he would not have died. Only 22-year-old, and he died from the Omicron. I've written 2 books about the pandemic. One is Understanding COVID-19, how 500,000 American lives could have been saved because the people in Washington, the people at the National Institutes of Health didn't do what they should have done. There were ways that we could have had early treatments for this disease, and they didn't tell us about it. And that's been, we could have saved at least half of the lives, and I explained in this book how that could happen. Then I have a second book that I've written since I've been back in Farmville, Dear Bill Gates, How to End Serial Pandemic Failure, HIV-1 to COVID-19. Both of these books are for sale at the Uptown Coffee Shop for $18 each. So that's an easy way. And they're also online on Amazon.com. So I think we can't take our eye off the ball yet because we've got this pandemic. It's almost over, we think, but it could come back again. And then you've got the influenza that could come at any time, could be 3 months and could be 3 years, and it could be 3 times as bad as COVID was. So we need to be virus aware, and I'll come back maybe once or twice a year to give you an update and make sure that we don't forget about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Tony Epps, Sheriff, please.
Whoever on the council would like a book, I'll give as a first hand, whoever wants.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, the board. I'll be brief. I know we've got a long meeting tonight, but I just wanted to report that on Friday, we got a report of another missing person over in the Lee District on Supervisor Townsend's road. And thanks to the drone that the county supported and us purchasing, we were able to find this lady in about an hour. And I'm telling you now, when Trey Powell, he's a drone operator, he's got it figured out. He called me over, and he's looking at the screen, and you see that little white dot right there? I think that's her. Well, it looked like an ant to me. So the next question was, what color clothes is she wearing? And I said, purple. And he zoomed in, he said, no, she's not, she's wearing red. There she is, right there. So he gave me the direction, and Major Wilmoth and I went around and got in front of her, and actually were able to walk in the woods and find her. And about the time we found her, the state police helicopter showed up. So I guess what I'm saying is the drone is in my opinion, has already paid for itself. If we hadn't found her when we did, this lady was moving. I mean, she could outrun me. She's 71 years old, but she was moving. And she told me she was looking for a bear. And I told her, I'm sorry, I'm not the bear, but it's the best you're gonna get.
But you are a Smokey.
Yeah, yeah. So I want to thank you all for your support in the purchase of the drone. Like I said, it's already paid for itself. I guarantee anybody in here tonight, if they have a loved one that walks off, they're going to be glad that we got that drone. And I know we won't find every person every time with it, but like I said, as far as I'm concerned, it's already paid for itself.
But one life more than,
Yeah.
that's one life less fatality.
Exactly.
And that was the night of that terrible storm, too.
It was Friday.
Yeah.
But Doug turned me down for a helicopter on the last missing person we had over there. And so I asked for a drone, and again, I appreciate your support in that, and I appreciate Sarah and Trey. They're on top of things. When we have a missing person, they know about it before I even call them, because I did call them. They already knew about it, so they're on top of the game, and we got a good team. So thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Good job, Steve.
That's wonderful they found her. Next speaker will be Crystal Hostetler.
I'll do best. So good evening, Board of Supervisors. I'm Crystal Hostetler. I live in Prospect. So I'm speaking this evening in regards to the increasing number of utility-scale energy facilities that have been approved in Prince Edward County. I expressed my concerns at the most recent March 21st Planning Commission meeting. Now I'm just speaking in general, not the specific one this evening. I'm concerned for the future of our agriculture and forestry zone land. I'm concerned about the due process of these facilities and the driving force behind them. I'm concerned about the pay-to-play politics. Lastly, I'm concerned about what happens at the end of these solar facility life expectancies. According to Prince Edward zoning ordinances, the current alternative energy facility size regulation states that in no case shall any energy facility exceed 2,513 acres. That's a lot of land. Following my statements at the Planning Commission meeting, Chairman Prengeman followed up by assuring that Prince Edward County was not a solar county, nor intended to become a solar county. And if that's the case, the powers that be should be revising the county's ordinance to largely reduce the number of contiguous acres that the facility can inhabit. Since the Virginia Clean Economy Act was signed in 2020, I understand the state is in a hard position to go green. However, I've read many articles explaining that the reduction in carbon emissions is hardly achieved through solar energy. I would also argue that taking away agricultural land for these solar facilities is going to hurt our carbon emission goal due to the loss of carbon sequestering land. For example, as crops photosynthesize, they take in carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and they produce the oxygen that we need to breathe. Through that process, carbon is sequestered in the soil. So I encourage all of you to further research the benefits of agricultural land and carbon sequestration if you're concerned about carbon emissions. I might add that solar facilities also create land disturbances. They can create soil compaction, increased runoff and erosion issues, all of which have prevention plans within their respective permit applications, but how do we really know the detriment until it occurs? Look at the Buckingham and Pamplin facilities that are being fined for the issues I mentioned, according to last week's Farmville Herald article. If you haven't seen it, you can look April 6th. Had a headline in the newspaper about fines up to $100,000. So according to the USDA data, Virginia lost about 2,000 acres of productive farmland per week in 2021 due to various reasons. But now solar facilities are posing a large threat to Virginia's agricultural land and are going to only add to that. There are now over 50 utility-sized facilities in Virginia, according to the Department of Energy. And sadly, a large majority of those facilities are being built in rural areas, such as ours, where land is vast, and our localities are seeking ways to generate revenue. So this leads me to my concern about the tactics behind solar facility companies. I've read about financial incentives being offered to county officials to approve special use permits for facilities to be built on land zoned agriculture. More so, once the facility is built, they will then pay into the county's tax base as a result of the revenue share legislation, which sweetens the deal even more. The revenue share largely benefits the county, but I ask, how does it benefit the community when we could be seeing our energy bills go up drastically to pay for the transition to solar energy? I'll also mention Dominion Energy's involvement in some of the nearby solar facilities and how they paid their way for county approval. If the county is simply after money and ignores the greater issues, I'm afraid the county has its best interests mixed up. Lastly, I would like to question the decommissioning of solar facilities and the risk for future hazardous waste sites, the disposal of parts process, and potentially deeming the sites abandoned. I have not been able to find a real plan to deal with a large amount of solar panels once they've reached the end of their life expectancy. 30 to 40 years from now, some of you may not be alive anymore. So you might not think you have anything to worry about. But the generations under you who wish to preserve and work our ag land care immensely. I understand landowners can do with their land as they wish, within rule and regulation. I'm not here to argue with landowners. I'm expressing my concern to the county that the comprehensive plan does not include utility-scale solar facilities. And if we continue approving each special use permit, will it create a domino effect? How much of our agricultural land are you willing to sign off? And what is the county's future land use objective? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, Steve Hostetter.
Good evening. I'm Steve Hosteller. I'm a landowner, farmer, business owner that employs a number of full-time people as well as some part-time people. I live in I consider the great community of Prospect. No, I haven't found a better one yet. I'm a transplant. I've been here 40 years. I guess that's still a transplant. I know most of you are here, and it's been a pleasure over the years. My boys went through the county school, played sports. A lot of y'all, I ended up coaching a lot of your children and grandchildren, I think. Okay. But it's been a pleasure. But anyways, I'm here to back Crystal up. Crystal is my daughter-in-law. Again, we moved here 40 years ago. I was a young man, about 29, had a lot of energy, a lot of hope. And I still have the hope. The energy level's a little bit less, a whole lot less. But I moved here from the Tidewater area, and I want to go back to our concern for the future of our county as far as the ag part of it. I came from an area that was losing farmland right and left, not to solar panels at that time, but it was to development. And that's the reason we moved. We were being pushed out gradually in the Chesapeake, Virginia Beach area. But the concern for our future of our county, for 2 years we looked in the state of Virginia and part of North Carolina and ended up in Prince Edward County. As a man of faith, I feel like God put us here. And I've come to love this county. I've invested a lot into this county, and I don't regret a bit of it. It's not a perfect county, but we're not perfect people. So, but I love the little community of Prospect. We moved here for agricultural purposes. And the question I have, back in what Crystal said, is a couple questions. How does solar panel, farms, whatever you want to call it, fit into the preservation of ag land and fit into the comprehensive plan that Virginia has, or Prince Edward has? And from what I understand at the board, at the planning commission, when we were there, we basically come away with, if you apply, it's going to be approved. As long as it was in the Virginia comprehensive plan. That was the feeling I got. Maybe that's not correct, but that's the feeling I've got. The state of Virginia has a comprehensive plan which Prince Edward is going by. And I just got some numbers I want to throw out. Crystal touched on a few. Density max is 2,513 acres in a continuous plan. No more than 5.5% of the acreage in a 5-mile radius. Of that acreage in a 5-mile radius is allowed. That's the plan. And I did a little math, and I did a quick math, and you can check me on this. In fact, I encourage you to check me on these numbers. I took find the old math formula, pi r squared, and came up in a 5-mile radius of 78.5 square miles. Or convert that to acreage, 50,265 acres. According to the 5.5, would allow 2,764 acres in that particular radius to be allowed in solar panels, according to the comprehensive plan that I'm reading. So, again, the county, 354 square miles. This is including everything, water. I can't break that down because I don't have those numbers. 226,560 acres, which would convert down, if you just use everything in general, 12,460 acres that would be, could be allowed as solar panels in this, if you stay with those particular plan. Other concern we have, and Crystal touched on it, the erosion problem. I read in the Farmville Herald, and I have a whole lot, all these here will come articles that were in the Farmville Herald over a period of 2 or 3 years. So you can read them. But, and that's our local paper. Erosion problems up here, they were cited in December of 2021. And as of April the 6th, from what I got from it, a year and a half later, problems had not been corrected. I'll just use a quick example of, as a farmer, I took a piece of land a number of years ago. I rented a piece of land. And out of my own, a problem that I should have looked into, it had been farmed for years. I went in, converted, I sod planted a number of acres in there. Did not disturb any land other than a line going through where the seed went. I reported my acres to the ag department, and within 30 days, I think it was, I received a registered letter with me being in terrible trouble from the USDA because that particular farm did not have a soil plan on it. That was my fault for not checking, but I assumed. So, and here this one company has been a year and a half. Of course, they got a $100,000 fine, and I think that's great. They hadn't corrected the problem. So I know time, I'm sorry, just one other thing, a couple other things. Our future, we're concerned about the overall. We're not here protesting or anything. this particular one that y'all are dealing with tonight. We encourage you, or I would encourage you, I can't speak for Crystal, but that's what she's saying, I think. To set up a plan. What is the overall plan down the future? Don't look at just today. Look at 10, 20 years from now, 30 years. Is there going to be ag in this county? What about the jobs that are going to be lost if, you know, if it becomes a big solar thing? You got your tree cutters, you got your farmers, you got southern states, all these things it affects in some form. And I know for a fact, my farm, I have been, for the last 2 or 3 years, we have received letter after letter from different solar companies asking, we want to talk to you. We have a prime farm. There's 500 acres of clear land sitting right there, open, lays fairly level. I finally sat down and talked with a group. I gave them 2 hours to try to convince me why I should do this. And then I took an hour and asked questions. And I didn't like a lot of the questions that they didn't answer or vaguely answered. And in some of the ones they did answer, I didn't really like the answers to. I'm a farmer. The ground is precious to me. And but anyways, I just want to give a word of encouragement to you as leaders, all of you. Look to the future for our kids. I have a son and a daughter-in-law that came back to Prince Edward after 5 or 6 years after college. I know a lot of our young kids are leaving Prince Edward. I had a family that come back and want to continue to farm. And so, anyways, thank you for listening. Thank you for your leadership, all of you. And God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Have anybody call in?
Cheryl, anybody on the line? I'm gonna ask if they want to speak.
Anyone on the line that would like to speak at this time? No response. All right. We'll finish with the public participation then. We'll move on to the supervisor's comment. Harrison?
Thank you all for being here tonight. Hostettlers, thank you for your concern and your forward thinking. I sympathize with you. I live in Farmville, not Solarville. But with that, I mean no ill will to the solar folks who are here, and they're looking for solutions, and I think solutions are a good thing. So figuring out how we can find solutions responsibly with today's best interest in mind and tomorrow's, and that's what we're looking to do. But we will certainly carry that future in mind as we talk about our comprehensive plan. So thank you, everybody, for being here tonight, whether you're here for solar or not for solar. We thank you for your input. That's what we're here for. We want to hear you. We're here for you to reach out to us, and we appreciate your involvement.
Thank you. Andy?
Again, I'd like to say welcome to everyone. We appreciate what you came to say. We definitely will take it into consideration. Mr. Hostetler, haven't seen you since the boys' baseball and basketball years, but it is a pleasure to see you as well. Thank you for coming.
Patty? Thank you. Dustin?
Good evening, everyone. It's so great to see so many of you out. It is so important for you to come out, voice your issues and concerns. Believe it or not, I'm a former farmer, and I respect the sentiments of the farmer. I grew up on a farm, raised tobacco, raised crops and everything, so I know that's very important. Thanks again for coming out.
Thank you, Justin. Bill?
Glad to see everybody show up tonight. People need to come, express their concerns, so we know what's going on and all, and so just keep on bringing the problems, and we try to work them out. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Bill. Cannon?
Hey, thanks so much. It's great to see so many people here, and look forward to hearing from more of you.
Thank you. Jerry?
Thanks for being here, and I follow everything been said.
And David?
Kind of hard to follow everybody else, but I'm gonna get to be first all the time, so I appreciate everybody being here. Steve and Crystal, thank you for your comments, and I realize that this is a touchy situation, no matter which way you look at it. It's if you're on the one side of it, you think it's a solution. On the other side, it seems like the detriment. And since I'm a farmer also, I can see where it's a detriment, and I can see where it's a lot of people that think it's a solution. So it's something that I'll tell you that I'll take to the board and take it seriously and see what we can do. Thank the rest of you all for being here. Thank you very much for your time, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, David. My sentiments are the same. I'm glad to see everyone. And I will tell you, the solar projects, not here, but in this country, I have probably put more thought into these things than anything I've thought of in years. What is right? What is wrong? What is the future going to hold if we stay where we are? What is it going to hold if we change? There's a whole lot of things that I don't know the answer to. I don't know anybody knows the answer to all of them. But I promise you, we're going to study it as hard as anything we've ever studied, and try to make the best decision that we can. Thank you all. We're going to skip forward a little bit. It is 7:30. Public hearing. Scott, I'm going to keep you hanging around a little while if you don't mind. All right. Robbie?
Chairman, members of the board, our first public hearing is a special use permit filed by Tim Bomer for to operate a storage shed, manufacturing, retail facility. This is at the Old Norris Pet Store, which is located at 5865 Prince Edward Highway, Prospect. This public hearing was duly advertised in the Farmville Herald. Adjoining property owners were sent notification letters with instructions on how to participate in public hearings tonight. Again, they're looking to locate a new 100-foot by 100-foot manufacturing facility, use the existing pet store building, reuse as an office and other office space, et cetera, and to have buggy top kind of barn buildings created, built there. All construction would be occurring indoors in that new manufacturing center. The Planning Commission held their advisory public hearing and unanimously recommended approval. After holding that public hearing, no one spoke in opposition of this application, and I've gotten no calls in opposition to this application. With that, they did forward 19 conditions, which you have in your table pack, and I would be glad to answer any questions you might have. VDOT did look at this. The existing entrance is suitable for this this use if it were approved.
Anybody have any questions, concerns about this? David, any?
I just ask that we open it up for the public hearing at this point.
Anybody want to speak for or against?
See if there's anybody.
Got one.
We need to have a vote to open it here.
We do? No, we don't need a mo, just.
Your name, sir, where you from, please?
Good evening, Board of Supervisors. Tim Bamer, 444 Plum Creek Road, Prospect. I'm here to speak on behalf of the special use permit for Better Built Sheds. We're looking forward to this, very excited. One of the amendments and changes that the conditions our hours of operation. I'd like you to respectfully consider working in a manufacturing or building. When the sun comes up is when a lot of the workers get out there to beat the heat. We respectfully request 6 to 6 hours of operation for manufacturing. All manufacturing will be done inside the building, to include paint and so on. To mitigate the noise level and consider the neighbors to be neighborly friendly, we moved that building and positioned it to the most forward part of the property. Some of the other things that are mitigating noise because of respect for the landowners around us is preventive maintenance on equipment. One of the things is loud equipment, poor maintenance, forklifts, things of that nature, offloading trucks. That's where the beeping comes in, the backing up, the loud noises. To mitigate that receiving, we would like the hours of receiving would be from 8 till 5, so that we could eliminate any of that information or potential noises. So respectfully request the hours of operation to be changed from 6 to 6 and receiving from 8 till 5. That's all I have.
Thank you.
What was the original hours, Robbie? You recall that we agreed on?
The original hours were 6 to 6. His request, the planning commission modified that and put as a recommended condition 7 to 7 at the public hearing, after the close of public hearing. That was a recommendation by I forgot which commissioner that was.
For what reason?
Noise, I think. They just didn't want to intrude on the neighbors.
Early in the morning?
Yeah. That was what was expressed. I think it was Mr. Page. I believe Whitfield Page brought that. And he thought 6 o'clock was a little early to start an
Isn't
operation.
that, is this the building across from the dumpster site?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll be the
I
new
ain't see
building.
no,
It'll be a new building there, not that particular
yeah,
building.
but, I mean, they're gonna put a new construction, right?
Correct.
Yes, sir. I don't see any houses close.
Is it a pretty highly populated area? I haven't seen many
I don't see
residents.
no houses
No,
out
man, the
there.
only houses anywhere around us is off of Rhodey's Road, which is. to
Right
the north.
behind it.
Right.
Right behind it.
Right behind it,
His
yeah.
building, if you look at the site plan, he's put his 100 by 100 kind of the center of his parcel of land. It's a good distance to all of those homes.
Yeah.
And nobody from Rhodey's Road has contacted me a lot. You notice,
Okay.
I sent a lot of letters to that. Not everyone got, some of the people on the north, on the east side of Rhodey's or northeast side, they didn't get them, but everybody on the south side of Rhodey's got that. Nobody's
And you
contacted.
didn't get anything.
No concern.
Nobody expressed concern
About the 6 to 6.
about the entire application.
Gotcha. And this is Monday through Friday,
Monday through Saturday, sir.
and 6 to 6 on Saturday also? I gotta ask.
That's right.
That's right.
You know, weekends, people are at home. During the week, they're at work.
If you could consider 6 to 6 Monday through Friday, and whatever hours for Saturday to be respectful for the landowner or for the neighbors. If we could have reasonable hours of operation, starting early on Saturday 6, and then possibly ending a little earlier on Saturday, with no receiving on Saturdays. Receiving will be Monday through Friday.
6 to noon on Saturday?
6 o'clock a little early for Saturday morning, we'd like to see
I think
that.
not having receiving, the receiving is the part that's gonna be the loud part as you're unloading material off trucks. So not doing any receiving on a Saturday would mitigate most of your noise if they're doing the construction indoors.
2 things, nail guns and screw guns.
But he said receiving's on Monday through Friday, right?
That's correct.
So you don't have receiving on Saturday anyway.
That's correct.
But I'm thinking, you know, but Saturday, 6 o'clock, a little early to start. Most people work normally Monday through Friday, so Saturday's usually a late, you know, sleep-in day. Maybe 7 start at 7.
That's reasonable, sir. 7 to 5 would work.
Okay.
On
I mean, I can live with that on Saturday, 7 to 5.
comments from the board? Or we've got two people signed up here.
How many
Would
people
like
do you
to
think you're
talk
gonna be
about it.
working?
Am I right?
How many people do you think you're gonna have?
This is Nate.
Potentially employment up to
Yes, sir.
20 to 30, once the office is running and stuff.
Fantastic.
20 to 30?
Yes, sir.
That'd be great.
Good.
I'm hesitant to suggest a limitation of hours on a Saturday as long as there's no receiving.
Yeah.
Jim, what did you say your receiving hours were from what to what, Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday from 8 till 5.
Was that even addressed in the planning commission?
No, it's not. It was me coming up with a
I
solution.
I understand that. I'm on the opposite end of you. I'm in the trucking business. If I show up at 5:30 in the afternoon, I want you to load me because I've got another load to get that night. So I'm for unloading and loading anytime within reasonable hours, even on Saturday. Just because I know what it's like to be a trucker and you get there because you have a flat tire or something else and you get there after hours and you have to sit 8 or 10 hours or 24 hours or whatever else and lose the load down the road. So that's, you can do as you please, but I personally don't see a problem with the loading and unloading.
Gotta make a living.
That's right.
He's not gonna ask for the business right here, though. He'll wait until after the meeting to
Correct.
ask for
That's
the
correct.
business. He's not gonna ask for
That's
it.
right.
Any other questions? In closing, I'd like to just say that there is a buffer zone around the property with trees all the way around it. And then the 100 by 100 is a steel building with insulation. It's going to be fully insulated, and our plan is to also be heated as well. So it'll be nice conditions in the wintertime, but we definitely like to beat the heat in the mornings. So appreciate your time and the consideration for that change.
Thanks for choosing us.
We have one more person would like to speak on this matter. Nate, who did?
Good evening. My name is Nathaniel Bamer. My brother's partner. We've been doing this for approximately 6 years. We're excited to be in Prospect. I'm actually born in Pennsylvania, been living in Prospect for 20-plus years. I've done this business for approximately 12 to 13 years. We have currently 2 manufacturing places that we manufacture our buildings. For a chuckle, you guys probably take things so serious, but Mr. Love here mentioned Buggy Top. That's our competition, so we don't, normally we don't say Buggy Top. But we're thankful for that, so.
I was thinking that might be.
I put my brother up here first to be in the hot seat, and I will answer any questions that you may have for me, so. We currently also employ about 24 different people, and that's in some different counties as far as sales lots, and then, like I said, we have 2 manufacturing places. One in Prospect, it was the first one that was passed, it was on Plum Creek Road, it was also zoned A1, and we're thankful for that, man, and we also have a manufacturing plant in Cumberland County, so we're excited to be here. Any questions? I'm glad my brother came first. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this matter, please? We can close the public hearing on this matter.
David, you need to make a motion.
You don't have to, he can close it.
I didn't understand what he said.
You can,
I'm
I
good.
said you
I'm
can
good,
close it.
thank
He's
you.
asked me if I,
We going to make a motion on this?
before, if it's up to us to make a motion or if we're going to vote on this right now, just a quick question. I guess this is to either Robbie or Terry, either one. In their general on number 16, that says that the building materials and the trash containers shall be situated at the rear of the building and shall be appropriately screened by Prince Edward County Ordinance in section 4-215. Do we have a copy of that by any chance?
I don't have a copy of it, but I can get one.
If you would, please, before we vote on it.
What's the, I got my code book.
You got the code?
What's your section again? Dave?
200-215. 200.15. (4-200.15).
Almost there. Here you go.
See, the signage and everything is already. Tim and Nate, you do realize that this requires you to put up a fence,
If they have outdoor storage.
correct? Or manufacturing outside?
Correct.
Or if it's visible from the road or any
Adjacent.
adjacent property owner?
Correct.
Just so you all know that.
Sir, you're speaking of the dumpster?
That's correct, or if there's anything manufactured outside?
Not counting the building, finished buildings.
Correct, not including the finished buildings. Just want to make sure that. Don't have any more questions?
Anyone else? Someone like to make a motion on this?
I move that the Board of Supervisors approve the special use permit request by Tim Boehner for a storage shed manufacturing and retail facility with the following conditions. And we have a list of those conditions as well.
With the only condition changes is from 7 to 5 on Saturday, is that correct, Nate and Tim?
6 to 6, Monday through Friday, and 7 to 5 on Saturdays.
That's correct.
Okay.
Good?
Yes, sir.
Second.
David?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Kenneth?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Dessa?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
And my vote is yes. The motion is passed.
Thanks, guys.
And next item is request by Elam Road Solar LLC.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, county received an application for a 3-megawatt community solar energy facility on a 33-acre portion of tax map 031-A-16, consisting of 136 acres. So just for clarity, this is 33 acres of a 136-acre parcel. This property is zoned A1 agricultural, and this use requires a special use permit. This public hearing was duly advertised, adjoining property owner sent notifications, and you have a tax map in your place setting. We've supplied you with the entire solar application, electronic. If anybody needs to examine the printed copy, I have it here. But again, this is a community solar. This is not a utility scale, so it's a different program under the Code of Virginia. Planning Commission held their advisory public hearing where we had 2 residents speak in opposition of the application, and then you have 1 letter opposing the request from the Hostettlers. And they spoke primarily during the substantial accord hearing, but also reiterated their sentiments at the public hearing. You have the public hearing summary in your packet. And the applicant is here and has a presentation to present. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have with staff. The Planning Commission did recommend potential conditions, which are, you have them there. It's 15 pages of them. It's 43 conditions.
All right. We'll let the applicants go first. John, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Let's see, so we've got this on the screens. We passed out printouts of the exact same thing that's on the screen, so hopefully everyone has that. If your eyesight's like mine, even though I'm this close, I still can't really read it, so. Good evening again, members of the board. Thank you for your time today. My name is John Townsend. I'm here representing Sun Tribe Development and the Elam Road Solar Project. I'd like to thank Mr. Love and Mr. Stanley in particular for their support, answering a lot of questions over the last 10 or 11 months since we first spoke about this project in June of last year. I'd also like to take this time to thank the Hochstetler family for their comments. I do hear your concerns, and I hope that during this presentation I can illustrate how this small project has been designed and developed to be a good neighbor for the entire county and community. Sun Tribe is a local developer. The founding member lives in Virginia. Our main office is in Charlottesville. Most of the employees live in Charlottesville. I grew up in Charlottesville, so I'm very cognizant of how development impacts our state as a whole. Sun Tribe has tremendous development experience nationwide, but Virginia is our home state. And we've also founded the Solar Hands-On Instructional Network, which is just a workforce development nonprofit here in the state as well. The team has years of experience developing projects in Virginia and on the East Coast. We've partnered with schools, municipalities, local governments, and nonprofits to provide energy solutions. Trevor Francis, our VP of Engineering, Avery Clemens, and I are here with you today, and we look forward to meeting with you, answering any questions, and addressing any concerns. So here we've got a project overview. As Mr. Love mentioned, the facility is going to generate up to 3 megawatts. There'll be no battery storage component. For context, that powers approximately 500 or 600 homes here in the county. The site is located about 3.5 miles west of Prospect, west of Elam Road, and that's south of Highway 460. As mentioned, the overall parcel is 136 acres. However, the solar panels will only cover about 20 acres of the site. The project will be a good neighbor. It will be screened. There will be no off-site noise, and it will not generate any excess traffic to the area once under operation. As we look at the picture there, give a little bit of reference points. The road going off to the right is Leroy Drive. There's an existing access road there that we plan to use for the facility, and interconnecting to the existing Dominion distribution line, which already exists right there on Elam Road. Because of the small nature and the community size of the project, there's no need for a large substation. And as I mentioned, the access road is already in existence and will just be improved to meet VDOT requirements if necessary. Also like to highlight that the project held a community meeting on December 7th. All the adjacent landowners, plus additional landowners on Leroy Drive were notified by mail, and an ad was placed in the paper. We had pretty good turnout of people in the community coming to ask questions, and we spent several hours talking there to local community members. At the end of the meeting, and as of yesterday's phone call with Rob, there had been no specific opposition to the facility until we met the Hochstetlers at the Planning Commission.
While you're on that slide.
I'm sorry?
While you're on that slide, there are 2 retention ponds at the south end of this. Oh, I couldn't see it up on the screen, but it looks like it is on that sheet here.
So I'm glad you pointed that out. So what we have shown here is that while the project will still have to go through the full site plan process with Mr. Love's office, there'll be a Virginia stormwater permit requirement and erosion sediment control process will happen. We've shown the design saves space to fit this within the area that we've requested for the special use permit. So those are conceptual, but we've spoken with civil engineers, so they are in a practical location for the final design.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. The project will provide a variety of benefits to the county. It will generate significant value, up to $300,000 for Prince Edward County. And it's important to note that that is without any additional draw on county services. Renewable solar energy is a local source of zero-emission energy production. It's a long-term, reliable fuel source. That's solar radiation. The project will be quiet. Again, once it's operational, there'll be very little traffic, really at most monthly or bi-monthly, just for routine maintenance. Outside of construction and decommissioning activities, the facility is a quiet, passive neighbor with constant remote monitoring, but very little on-site management required. As Mr. Love mentioned, during the Planning Commission meeting on March 21st, the Planning Commission did vote that the project was in compliance with the current version of the Prince Edward County Comprehensive Plan. I'll take this opportunity to remind everyone that the project will produce clean, reliable electricity without the use of water, without generating emissions, odor, or dust. The project will also help improve the resiliency of the electric grid. And additionally, solar puts downward pressure, actually, on power rates by reducing reliance on other generation sources that might be subject to a much higher price volatility. Also, solar improves regional air quality by reducing and offsetting more polluting generation sources. The project will maintain significant setbacks and buffering, in many cases greater than what the county's A1 ordinance requires. Vegetation within the buffers will be retained and supplemented with Virginia native vegetation as necessary, based on the site plan to be approved during site plan review, which is after this process. The goal is for the project to be screened from neighbors and public's right-of-way. And I'd like to acknowledge a concern that was brought up during the Planning Commission about a section of existing hardwood forest, and certainly address that during site plan review to make sure there's sufficient screening in that area along Elam Road. This photograph here shows some pictures from the intersection with Leroy Drive. There is robust existing mature vegetation on the site there. And again, additional buffering can be added to meet the intent of the ordinance and of the project. Sun Tribe and the project are committed to a number of environmental safeguards and features for the project. Sun Tribe has performed a variety of rigorous desktop and field studies to evaluate potential impacts to threatened and endangered species, cultural and historic resources, and the project has been designed to avoid any wetland features. Per the ordinance, use of Virginia native grasses and additional pollinator-friendly species will also be used where practical on the site, and the facility will generate electricity for the community without the accompanying emissions commonly associated with other fuel sources. Additional environmental protections, will continue during the site plan review process, and some of that is certainly included in the stormwater and erosion sediment control protections. Construction of the facility is expected to take 4 to 6 months and likely start in 2024 or 2025. A short-term increase in traffic will occur during construction. However, the project has put in safeguards to reduce the impact of this traffic, including planned completion of a construction traffic management plan, which is also listed in the conditions. And we're voluntarily agreeing to limit large truck deliveries to Monday through Saturday daylight hours. I believe the condition actually calls out even more specifics about what's allowed on the weekend. Once the project is in operation, it will not generate measurable increase in traffic, will not be audible or visible from surrounding properties or roads. For decommissioning, the project is required by county and state law to be fully removed at the end of its useful life, details of which are extensive in the conditions and in the ordinance that Prince Edward County has adopted. At the end of the life, it is important to note that the deconditioned materials will be repurposed or recycled as available, and there is actually a robust infrastructure in place for the recycling of either raw materials or solar panels. So I just want to highlight here that the project will benefit the landowner and the county, obviously for the reasons laid out. Additionally, the facility is targeted for Dominion's Community Solar Program. That is a subscriber-based program where people with either low income or that don't have the opportunity to have renewable energy on their own property can subscribe to be a part of another facility. So that is certainly another benefit to the community here. The facility will produce clean, reliable electricity without the use of water, generating emissions, odor, or dust. Again, there will be no traffic or no considerable traffic during operation. Continues to provide revenue to the landowner and the county. We have been consistent with Prince Edward and the county and their process. And as we wrap up here, we'd like to request your approval of this application this evening. That concludes our presentation. I really appreciate your time, and I am prepared to answer any questions right now.
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Under the panels, is it going to be grass, gravel?
Grass, yes, sir. So there'll be a stabilization plan put in place. There's, depending on the county requirement, sometimes that changes for construction versus the long-term use, but there will be stabilized plant life underneath the panels.
What is the expected lifespan of the project?
Up to 40 years.
And have you ever, or has your group ever decommissioned a site that has reached the end of its lifespan before?
A full facility, not exactly, but we have, our company actually has recycled panels before.
Thank you.
It's important to note as well, it's certainly in the conditions, but for the decommissioning portion, the project is required to post a bond or a security so that the facility itself is required to cover any cost related to removing the facility entirely from the land. So there are protections state level and county level, so that will not fall back onto county or taxpayers.
How many houses will 3 megawatts
I'm sorry?
power?
According to Dominion, approximately 500 or 600. Obviously, it's use-based, but that's a rough estimate.
I guess it depends on whether the sun's shining or not, then.
Yes, sir.
How many of these things have y'all built?
We've got several.
company?
We've got several under construction, and we've permitted, I'm going to guess and say 8 to 10 throughout the county. So members of our team have built projects over the last 15 years all across the country.
You all will sell to Dominion, I take it?
Yes, sir. The offtake for the power generation here is Dominion Energy.
How important is it to have that line right there? Very, I guess.
The existing power lines at Leroy Drive?
Yeah.
It's very helpful.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Anyone have any other questions? We have 2 other people that would like to speak. We thank you for your presentation, sir.
Thank you very much.
James, I cannot read the last name, Gleman, Gleman? Coleman? Jimmy? Sorry about that, I couldn't read it.
Okay, I hope I can speak better than I can write. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Jimmy Coleman from Prospect. If y'all been to the fire department in the last 38 years, I'm sure you've run across me up there at some point in time. But obviously grew up in Prospect on a farm. In fact, this particular farm that we're talking about here was on my mother's side of the family for now with my daughters is the 4th generation. So I always take farming very seriously and very, of course, dear to my heart as well. So I wanted to speak in favor of this project, several reasons. as John mentioned, we're looking at 33 acres out of this particular tract of 136. So that's about a fourth of that. And when they told us, when they came and talked to us about it and gave us the size amount that they wanted, it was very conducive that this majority of this, over half anyway, probably 2/3, is more recently planted pines. Until, I don't know how long we planted them ago, probably 8 or 10 years ago, we planted these. Did not get a very good stand anyway, so we're not losing any valuable farmland. In fact, there's not been any agriculture done on this particular farm probably since the early 70s, and that was just strawberries. So you can see by the map that he had up there, this is kind of the triangle part. The remaining acreage is more mature pines, have been thinned one time, and then a fair amount of hardwood, standing mature oaks and poplars. So no detriment to this particular farmland. It will, of course, add us an additional type of income, an annual income. So unfortunately, we want none of us to get rich off of this, but when you have trees like that, you only get to harvest those once every 20 years or so for the pines, and then thin them again, or maybe wait for logs another 18 or 20 years. So this will be an annual thing, helps with taxes, and we'll be able to assure that we can keep the farm and the family for more years to come. I know someone spoke about the loss of farmland. I do have some better, actually fields that up until several years ago, I raised soybeans and corn myself, but with my children getting in high school and more events and stuff to do, I allowed another farmer to use those fields for hay. But I do anticipate raising soybeans and corn again when he stops, and hopefully I get to retire one day. And we all know that in the future, we're going to need more electricity. So you always hear about this push now about electric vehicles. And I can say from working with AstraZeneca, they were trying to be the first pharmaceutical company to have an all-electric fleet. So they've actually initiated the first wave of new vehicles are electric. I was slated to get one, but they did enough research to find out that, and actually enough people had issues with not having places to charge, that they put me back for a while until they can get more chargers and infrastructure in place. But my manager, for example, drove from Richmond to Lynchburg for a meeting. The car was stated to have 240-mile range. She drove 95 miles and was half out. So there's a charging station at the Target on Wards Road. So she charged there, got back to Richmond. But the long and the short, we are going to need more electricity. So this is certainly one way of doing that. And everybody hears about zero emissions. So that's why AstraZeneca is doing what they're doing. But according to Dominion on the website, they're hoping to have zero emissions for carbon by 2050. So you've got 27 years to try to hit that mark. And all this stuff, I'm not going to get political on anybody, but you can't just throw electric vehicles to everybody all at once. It's going to have to be a stair-step thing. And if that's the way the country's going, and we need to start somewhere with baby steps. So as John alluded, this is a smaller project with 33 acres, 3 megawatts, I guess. So the other thing I was going to touch on here is the erosion. So to Steve's and his daughter-in-law's comment, there was an article last week about some local projects that had erosion issues. Well, as a landowner and potential, partner with him on this, I'm glad to see that there's some checks and balances in place that people are going by and following up to make sure that there's no erosion. Because as I said, they're not owning this land. We still own it. They're just leasing it. So when the lease is up, we don't want to have ruts and gullies all through the place. We want to still be, nice, usable farm, if that's so what my grandkids maybe by that part would use. But anyway, like I said, I'm sorry that they haven't addressed them where they should have, but I am glad to see that there are groups looking at and making sure that, they're keeping their word. And I can also, speaking to keeping the word, John and all of them to this point have been very truthful and honest to everything they've said so far, letter to the letter. So one thing he mentioned about the grass, I guess what he asked about, he has promised to plant crimson clover. That's one of the better clovers for honeybees, and I enjoy having honeybees, so that's one more plus for them. But anyway, so voice is getting on the course, don't have any water, so I guess I'll shut up now. But thank you all for your time, and thank you for your consideration. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I just thought of another question for you. You know, we had a.
Come back to the lecture.
No, you can sit right there, you can talk loud enough, I'm sure. Recently, Friday, we had a terrible storm come through. What controls this thing, say if the main power system goes down and it's still feeding power? I don't understand how that's gonna work.
So as I mentioned, there's remote monitoring, but there are significant safety protocols in place. These are required by Dominion and the National Electric Grid. So if for some reason the power grid were to fail, and the summer to come back out, it would be disconnected on that. It's 100% a safety thing, so linemen can work on lines.
So they would come back and turn it back on once they restored the power.
Correct. I'm not sure if it's remote. I would ask my engineering.
Yeah, so part of the interconnection process is a communication means between Dominion substation and the facility. So if there's power loss at any given time, they trip the facility offline remotely to ensure there's no question about being isolated from the grid.
Thank you. I just don't want anybody to get hurt. We're dealing with a lot of electricity here. Thank you.
Good question.
Jerry?
No, that was a good question.
We have one more person, Nate Bochmer. Bowman.
Hello again, Nathaniel Bamer. Again, I live in Prince Edward County. I actually live on Featherfin Road. It's in the middle of nowhere. And I also own a piece of property to the west of this solar field. My wife and I bought the land. It was a farm about 7 years ago, and it was right at 125 acres. We've since bought land beside us and kind of added to the farm. Apologize, I was not at any of the meetings. I know these meetings have come about, and I've heard from Steve that he coached baseball and some of your kids, and I've kind of been doing that here in the community for about 10 to 12 years as well. So I was coaching baseball as these meetings were coming up, and I felt like that was my commitment. Really came here tonight not to speak in this project, but do have concerns on it. I understand that there was a good turnout for people that came and addressed their concerns. I was told that there was 2 people that turned out, 1 for and 1 against. There's a lot of people that don't come just because they don't care, and that's not really a good turnout of people. I think that the property was spoke with the concerns of Elam Road. And yes, there is houses, and no, I do not live next to that future solar field, but I do have and own a large piece of property that has 125 acres of the richest crimson clover fields that you would ever find. You can have all the honeybees if you're looking to make honey. My question is, how many jobs does this bring to our county? I spoke earlier on a business that we have, and it's one that actually produces jobs. It's not set up and has a residual, it may have a residual earning of income, but for me, you know, I've worked for what I have, and that was waking up at the crack of dawn and going to work. This, to me, is set up and left go for revenue for the county. I don't think people, you drive past these solar fields, you can't drive by one and go, wow, this is beautiful. I mean, they're an eyesore. I know we need electric energy, but I'm just not sure that I want to see it next to my property. Question that I would have is, in these projects you spoke of, there would be 6 to 8, I'm not quite sure the number. But how many projects have you set up with the landowner that lives at that land? I would be willing to bet that it would be very few. My wife and I use this property, we farm as well, and Steve, over the years, maybe taught me, he gave me a yellow thumb. It's not quite green like his as a farmer, but I value the farm. It's taught me and it's taught my kids work ethic. And we may not make the most money off that farm, but it's taught them a great deal of work ethic. What does my property look like? That we looked as we bought the property in future to be able to retire there. What does that land to me? What's the value of that land with a solar field going in next to it? These are questions that I have. Will I see, as the topographical map that was shown, it did not show my farm, and it sets quite high. You know, am I going to see this farm am I going to see the solar fields from my place? I didn't see that on the topographical map. So again, thank you, and appreciate your your time here tonight. I know that it takes good volunteers to do what you do, and so I'm thankful for you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this matter?
Can I just say something? I didn't sign for this particular matter, but you all heard me earlier. I did want to just correct, because we keep calling it a community facility.
Need your name and address.
Crystal Hastetler, Prospect. I live on Sulphur Spring Road. The Prince Edward County Code of Ordinance, Article 7, Section 7-102, the definitions. A small-scale energy facility is 200 kilowatts or less. A large-scale energy facility is greater than 200 kilowatts and less than 999 kilowatts. And a utility-scale energy facility is 1 megawatt or greater. There's no such thing as a community solar facility. I just wanted to clarify that. It sounds nice.
Crystal, give those, what articles that, go ahead, Robin.
That is
I'll take the podium.
Article 7, Section 7-102, definitions.
Thank you.
Robbie?
If you may, for transparency, Mr. Chairman, the Code of Virginia defines what a community solar program is. And in the Code of Virginia, that sets up the subscriber program. It's treated differently in code than utility scale. Yes, utility scale can be all of those sizes, but a community project goes into the subscriber field, and I'll let, if the applicant wants to expand on this, that's fine. But it's treated differently than it goes doesn't go to transmission, it goes to distribution lines, so it goes right into a standard pole and electrifies the grid that way, rather than a substation and big transformers. So it's greatly different by the Code of Virginia, how these programs are run. Anyone that's a Dominion customer can subscribe to that program to lower their energy bill, and that's what these type of facilities do. So we have a couple of these in the county. We only have one, what I would consider a true utility scale. If you remember, that's a CEP site, which is 300 acres. We only have smaller sites that are less than 5 megawatts, other than that one 300-acre site currently. But I just want to make that clear so that we know it's the community solar program in Virginia, how they set that framework up. That's what these projects are coming for.
Thank you, Robert.
Mr. Chairman, I signed up for, sorry to speak out of turn if I am, but I signed up for the SUP. Should I speak for this public hearing instead of the SUP? Or
Yeah.
I just didn't know you.
That'd be fine. If you'll step up to the podium and state your name, where you're from.
Well, good evening. My name is Jacob Carosella, and I'm native Virginian, born and raised. Lived here my whole life, coming from Williamsburg this evening, born and raised in Yorktown. So happy to be here in Farmville to see you all, but also, if time allows, hopefully to grab a bite to eat at Fish and Pig before heading back home. But I'm with a nonprofit called Energy Right. My colleagues and I, we travel the Commonwealth, educating and encouraging clean energy development at the local level using conservative principles, whether it's defending the property rights of farmers, analyzing economic opportunities for counties and local businesses, or promoting stability and reliability of our Commonwealth's electric grid. At the moment, Virginia is actually a significant net importer of energy from our neighboring states. But however, thanks to the good work from you all and county staff, Prince Edward has reaped the benefits of solar developed the right way. Your ordinance includes strong design standards, setbacks and buffers, and decommissioning and strong decommissioning rules, all hallmarks of good policy. Recently, I've had the opportunity to meet and speak with Mr. Love and Mr. Stanley, and I'd just like to commend them for their leadership and common sense approach to not just in the solar development, but just in general, their economic approach to unleash the economic potential, I should say, in Prince Edward County. Thank you to the board members, to you all, county staff and community leaders, just for leading by example. We ask county leaders to judge individual solar projects and the developers on their merits. And truthfully, we believe Prince Edward has done an exceptional job at that. Above all, we strongly encourage community engagement, and it can never begin soon enough, of course. And from what I've heard tonight, and from other community members I've spoken with in Prince Edward, it sounds like these developers have met expectations and done quite a good job. Lastly, just from hearing some comments tonight, I threw this in at the last minute, I'd like to bring your attention to an organization called the South Central Virginia Business Alliance, SCVBA. They are a rather new organization that formed last year that are connecting, their main mission, their only goal is to connect local businesses in South Central Virginia with developers. And right now, I believe they're about at 100 members, all local businesses in Southside Virginia, South Central Virginia. So if you haven't heard of them or you know businesses that could prosper and benefit from these developments, please have them join and get connected so they can prosper from these developments coming to Virginia as well. But thank you for your time. And again, I'm with Energy Right. And if you guys ever have any questions or you all would like some help navigating some of these discussions, feel free to reach out. I can leave my card with Mr. Love, of course, if you all have any interest in reaching out. But thank you for the time, and it's good to be here in Farmville.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All of these. I think everybody's signed up, has spoken. Anybody still on the phone lines, anything pertaining to this?
Anybody on the phone, Trey?
No? Anyone still on the line like to speak for or against this solar project? I don't hear anyone. A lot of y'all know me, a lot of you don't, but I usually say what's on my mind. And I've listened to this over and over, different meetings, and I know we're talking about this particular one. The things that come to my mind that I have not forgotten, and I don't know whether it's gonna make it better or worse, but I remember a recent ice storm we had. I think I was out of power for 11 days. David, I know you had cattle that had to have water. These young men who want to build houses, these storage buildings, what do your tools run off of? Air compressor, battery powered? What do you?
We currently actually have Amish that build our sheds.
That's not what.
They're not using.
They're using a hammer? Did they use hammers?
That's right, yes, sir.
And they're putting the metal roofing on with what? Screws?
With a battery powered D-ball.
And somebody's got to charge it, right? I just think of things, storm Friday, we did not lose power, but Saturday we did for about 3 hours. And I don't know if somehow that a power company could restore power with the assistance of one of these things to get power back to people to save their refrigerators, their freezers, their food. Jerry, you were out 11 days.
Yes, sir.
And I guess that's the worst one we've had in the last few years. But, just trying to think what the right thing to do is. A lot of people want it, a lot of people don't want it. So,
Probably good to go ahead, let's go ahead and close the public hearing if there's no other speakers.
we will close the public hearing at this time. Now, any questions the board members may have about this conversation?
Just to your point, when your power goes out, as far as I'm aware, that's an issue of transmission and not production. When you bring up unfortunate weather events, that's only going to harm this particular source of clean energy. That's not going to help you get your power on faster if a tree limb got snow on it and fell across the line going to your house.
My reasoning is the recent tornadoes. They follow a path.
Sure.
They can reroute the power maybe in another direction to get it back to you. There's a lot of variables
Sure.
in everything we do, but I appreciate your point there. Sir?
Would it be all right if I just made a few general comments based on the conversation that is currently happening?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for all the comments. Thank you, Rob, for clarifying the size discrepancy. Apologies if that was confusing. To Mr. Bamer's comments, just want to highlight a couple things about the facility. The project is designed to be a good neighbor. It will be screened from adjacent parcels. It is a very small portion of a much larger parcel. I mean, we're talking about 20 acres of solar. There's going to be over 100 acres left, for the landowner to use in whatever use that, silviculture or whatever they'd like to use there. So we really feel like we're preserving the land there and helping the landowner out as well. Additionally, to the gentleman that spoke at the end's comments about the ordinance, the project is meeting all the requirements that Prince Edward County has laid out, including height. So the project and the facility is under the height limit, which I believe is 18 feet, but the panels are less than that. So just wanted to touch on a couple of those things. To the broader discussion that was just happening there, in some ways, I can't answer it specifically. You're right. Some of the questions are a Dominion transmission level question, but the basis here is that a project and a few small projects in the community do help with grid reliability. Okay, because what we're getting is small generation sources that the power is staying locally. So we're not having these transmission powers coming in from out of state or 50 or 100 miles away. Okay, so there are benefits to small generators, almost like microgrid systems. So there is a benefit there, even if it doesn't directly turn your power back on right after a storm. Again, there's a safety aspect to that, and that is certainly important to us as well. So that's just what I wanted to highlight there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more comments, questions, board, audience?
Quick question, Lou, and I guess this is to Robbie. Is that what Crystal stated? Is that the county code or is that state code?
That's county code, that's their definitions. Again, what I was speaking about, I wasn't disagreeing with her. Under the code of Virginia, there's a community solar program.
Right.
And that's what this site is being used for.
Any more questions, discussions? All right, pleasure of the board. A motion, table, any comments? Cannon, any thoughts?
I think most of us are against these big projects. This one seems small, seems well-designed to be the good neighbor. I don't think that if I had property up against it, that when it's done, I don't think it will be negatively impacted. I think that's really important. I think, farming is as entrepreneurial as anything. I mean, you risk your money, you lay out a lot of money hoping to get return. You do it all the time. And, I think some steps are made to not injure neighboring parties. It looks like that will work.
Commenting about jobs, I do know one up at Chatham that a landscaper, I believe he employs 17 people to keep it mowed. So somebody's got to maintain, if not, it'll get overgrown. I guess that's Dominion. Once they take it over, it'll be their responsibility, or whose responsibility will that be?
The project owner, which is Sundraft Development, will be responsible for maintaining the project for the life. Depending on the appropriate ground cover mix, which we'll work with Bob during, site control, or excuse me, site plan review. But it will be appropriate during the warmer months. There's maintenance, et cetera. There will not be probably like a full-time staff.
The reason I asked that, there's a homeowner on the Abilene Road, almost the county line, that put up solar panels several years ago. And the trees are over top of it now. I don't know whether they still use it, so, maintenance to me would be priority one to keep this thing working.
That's correct, sir.
Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we approve it as the planning commission stated with those conditions put forth. And they are clearly enumerated.
A second.
You have a motion, seconded. Harrison?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Odessa?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion carried. All right, section C, David. Robert Love.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, with completion of that special use permit, we have the siting agreement for this site. Prince Edward, for transparency, Prince Edward County is a revenue share locality, so we don't tax these sites with machinery and tools tax. We enter an agreement with the company, which you have that siting agreement in your table pack, and we must have a public hearing pursuant to state code. So like I said, again, this is for this existing facility, this just permitted facility. This public hearing was advertised properly in the Farmville Herald. Adjoining property owners sent notifications. This siting agreement includes a one-time upfront voluntary payment of $30,000, which equates to $10,000 per megawatt, and then an annual payment of $1,400 per megawatt with there's a table in here. It has a numerator, so payments do go up through the number of years. You'll see that on page 207 and 208 of your packet. So again, the upfront payment can help fund capital improvements, projects, safety projects that the county might have. And I'll be glad to answer any question you might have of me. This siting agreement has been provided to the applicant, and they are in agreement with it. And this is, next step would be to have your public hearing for consideration of this.
Any questions for Robert? Thank you, Rob. We had two people signed up. Jimmy Coleman, you want to speak on this? Okay. And Nate? Good?
So maybe irrelevant to this point, but my question was how many projects have you set up with people that live at that site, at the location that you set this up with them? I mean, we're talking about taxes now, so all I'm hearing is revenue for the county. I've heard nonprofit. But how many people live at these locations? Would you all set up a solar field in your backyard? Because there's a lot of people that are going to see this. And a lot of people don't drive past and say, this is beautiful. There's no way. I would love to drive with that person. Maybe I won't. But anyhow, again, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I know one project, and I've been acquainted with Suntribe for a while, but my home county is Middlesex County. You know where that is, Mr. Chairman. Middlesex County Elementary School has a solar field that is sitting on its site and provides electricity for the school system. And so each of those school kids, they see that, you look at the panels, they're right there behind the elementary school. So I don't know about living, but I do know, I've been by one of the school sites y'all worked on that has panels on the school campus.
I'm happy, if you'd like me to respond to the question, I'm happy
Sure.
to do that. So I can think of several facilities that we've either developed or that our colleagues have in previous bills where landowners can live on the site. And we have several in development where the landowner either lives on the site or on the adjacent site. So I certainly can't speak for all of them, but there's been considerable interest even from people that live on the same piece of property.
And you mentioned something about screening.
Yes.
Can you elaborate? Is that trees? Is that fence? What is that?
It's trees, it's part of the ordinance that Prince Rupert County has for, I believe it's 15-foot vegetative buffers, where supplemental screening is required.
Okay, thank you.
I guess David and me are more in the agricultural end of this thing than most of our board members. But I know of one dairy farm, Burnt Chimney, Virginia, that put in, I believe it's 5 acres of panels. Was it 7 years ago, David?
That's correct.
And he runs his whole operation and sells power back to the power company. And if anybody's familiar with the dairy business, it goes up and it goes down. And he said at one time he was paying over $3,000 a month in electric bills. And he said it was tough sometimes. But he said it was one of the best decisions he had ever made as far as his farming operation. And I see homes with them on top of the roofs. Myself, I would not put them on top of my roof. Something's got to hold it to the roof. I don't want water leaking in. But I've seen residences where they would get out in the backyard to the side. They're not large operations. I intend on stopping and visiting with people in the future that have them, just to get personal comments. I like to talk to people that have tried things and know the results they got. I do know of another project that's on the news that's in Georgia. A friend of mine that's right behind his piece of land. They're getting ready to, wants to put in a solar farm at 6,000 acres. And the community does not want it because there's only 3,500 people that live in the community. And they can't see why they want to put in one that big for that small population. So I'm right back where I've been ever since solar came along. I look at both ends of it. I want to learn, I want to study. But you got to kind of walk along kind of easy like Cannon says, 33 acres is not a lot to start off with. And we did another 17, Doug. And
Panels, I believe, yeah.
what was the one on 47? That wasn't very large either.
About 25, 30 acres.
That's the same size.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll talk all night, but, any more comments on this? Any questions? Entertain a motion?
Need to close the public hearing first.
Close the public hearing, I'm sorry. Now,
I make a motion that we do the citing agreement.
Second.
have a motion. Who seconded?
Jerry?
Jerry?
Jerry.
All right, do a vote. Bill?
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
Harry?
Yes.
Dessa?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Robert Love,
Yes, sir.
one more time.
Yes, sir. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for your patience through these hearings. Our last public hearing tonight is consideration of the zoning ordinance amendments. If you remember, you all asked staff through the county administrator to look at all of our county codes, section by section, department by department, to ensure that our codes are up to date, compliant with the Code of Virginia, and any other codes that we may need to look at, like I said. So subsequent to that, the county administrator and myself, we looked at things we've identified through our tenure here so far, looked at development trends, patterns, use types that we've had come before us the last couple of years, and put together a draft ordinance. Some of this language came from different communities that surround us, communities that might have, for instance, you just recently adopted transient occupancy. We have a lot of Airbnb rentals. We have a lot of folks that want to come camp here for tourism. So we've got some temporary camping in here. One of the things that I noted in the ordinance is there's a certain section that could allow an accessory building to be put on up against VDOT right-of-way. And I mean zero offset from an existing right-of-way or a property line. Talking to Mr. Powell from Emergency Services, that could be a great detriment, not only to, and VDOT doesn't want that, something that close to their right-of-way. We don't want that as far as close to a property line where two buildings could, say if one's a garage, you might have an accelerant or fire there. So we looked at things like that. The main thing we put in was private camping, further define that, short-term tourist rentals, and those setbacks to allow for public safety. And for transparency, we put 10 feet as a side property line setback. Some of the areas had 5, but we tried to baseline that at 10 feet. That's enough to get fire and rescue equipment around the back of something in case of a fire or an emergency. The Planning Commission held their public hearing last month. They looked at this at their January meeting. I presented this full document, and they came back in February, made some tweaks, and then we advertised and had their public hearing in March. No one came to speak against or for these ordinances. They've been on the county website. Nobody's contacted me with any comments either way. Planning Commission recommended approval of the ordinance amendments as presented, and I would be glad to answer any questions you might have of me. Again, I know it's a lengthy document. We provided it to you digitally. It doesn't change the essence of the code. It just modernizes it, further defines things, and provides for some public safety. Again, I think we'll probably be looking again at our zoning on subdivision ordinance on the backside of comprehensive plan revision, but this kind of gets us up to date, good housekeeping kind of update for us.
All right. Any comments on this public hearing here? I don't think anybody signed up. I don't guess there's nobody on the phone. I think that's all. Yeah. All right. Any questions from the board, comments?
So, Mr. Chairman, go ahead and formally open and close and see if there's anybody out there in the audience that wants to speak, just to make sure.
Open it up for public. Comments? We'll close the public hearing then. Make a motion?
Quick question. I guess what's underlined is the new.
That's correct, sir.
We all know how I am on ordinances. I already see stuff that just doesn't work. I can't vote for it, but if y'all want to table it till we come back, I'll give you just a quick one. Page 2, you get to non-commercial kennels, and you're asking if they be cleaned of daily waste, double bagged, and disposed of at the county collection facility. Most everybody that's got a non-commercial kennel has got land where they can apply that to begin with, and to require them to clean it up and carry it to the landfill. I think we're getting right back to the same thing with these ordinances. We're adding a bunch of verbiage and stuff that you can't enforce, and what's the need of having it if you can't enforce it?
That's just an opinion of mine.
Is there a number listed there of the amount of animals?
5, if I'm not mistaken.
See it there, David?
5, if I'm not mistaken.
5 or more?
Yes. And the way that reads is that pretty much anyone that has 5 hunting dogs would be considered a commercial kennel. So they can't wash it into a septic tank that some of them have or anything else. When you start adding verbiage to it, then you're requiring them to clean up every day and double bag and take it to the landfill.
Part of that, Supervisor Emmert, is you can't mix animal waste with human waste in a drain field. So you have to have a separate drain.
But there's a lot of these
Yeah.
non-commercials that have their own separate waste system to wash it into, but now they're gonna be.
And that one may be simple as deleting that language and say disposed of properly, and leave that up to whatever the regs are. Say the regs change, you know.
Do we need to table it and reword it, bring it back?
I think if the county attorney here, that would make it less lenient.
You can make that
So you can
amendment,
make that change now. Am I right on that?
Terry. I mean, just make it.
Was it advertised?
We advertise double bagging, but I think if you deleted that language and said disposed of properly, I think that would make it a little more lenient. It's not more stringent.
I got a question though.
Yeah.
Okay, you're out in the county, here's a guy got 5, 7 dogs, right? And out there on the ground, is that considered a kennel?
You're a non-commercial kennel under this ordinance.
Right there it is, that's what I'm.
Now,
saying.
if you're existing, you're grandfathered in. You don't have to worry about getting a permit. And part of this is some of our animal control officers here, sometimes you have somebody moves in the neighborhood and all of a sudden they've got 15 dogs and there's on 2-acre lots. That's where we get a lot of the complaints is folks that, not somebody with 200 acres got the farm, but it's the one that comes in and I think we allow those by right in the ag area, don't we?
That's correct.
Rob? Yeah, so I could go out to the Verso area and I could put a non-commercial kennel as a matter of right in that zoning district. But what I can't do is I can't go into a residential area. I couldn't go on Price Drive and decide I'm gonna have a kennel with 20 dogs on it without a special use permit. So there'd be a process whereby somebody would be able to go through that process to be able to do it. Scott, your neighborhood is, I think, you're residential, or you're residential. So I couldn't, if I owned the property next door, I couldn't go in and put a non-commercial kennel with 10 dogs in unless I had a permit. But I could go out into an ag area and I could do it as a matter of right, as long as I followed whatever requirements are under the ordinance section.
But yes, Gary, to answer your question, if they had 5 dogs or more in A1, then it's considered, if they don't have one today, then they'll be considered a commercial kennel and they'll be required under these. That's kind of where I am with ordinances. If you're gonna have them, absolutely enforce them, and if you're not gonna enforce them, don't have them. That's just my. But I'm one of 8, so.
Well, I know one thing. If you out in where I live at and you got 7 dogs, ain't nobody gonna be clean and picking up no waste. I tell you that.
They're gonna have to start, Jerry.
I'm telling you, I mean, I remember hunting, my father-in-law been hunting all his life. And he had 7 or 8 dogs. And it is what it is.
To answer.
But I agree with, I follow David, it's no need of having it if we can't enforce it. We need to word it so that, let's be real. And I don't know what that is. I don't hunt, but I know, I done been around people that do, and I know it exists in the county.
If we deleted that section D, is there anything else?
Well, if you go to B, when you get to any exterior structure or area occupied by animals, it doesn't say companion animals, it doesn't say dogs, it doesn't say cats, then you get right back to cows. When you get to animals, I'm just telling you all, the ordinances, if you don't word these things right, you certainly set yourself up
for losing a lawsuit. When, especially when someone has said, I mean, it shall be enclosed by a solid fence not less than 6 feet in height. So if you got cows outside, I realize this is somewhat, then you're gonna have to have a 6-foot fence. When you start using vague things like animals rather than saying dogs, cats, chickens, whatever you wanna say.
Yeah.
I mean, it needs to be,
Did we get this from some other,
I can't
or
answer
some
that.
other counties or
Yes.
multiple counties?
It sounds like it was written for an urban area.
Actually, this one was kind of I think the two we pulled from were more of I'll say suburban.
Suburban,
rural-
sure.
rural. But, you know, again, not much unlike where you and I live in those areas.
And so for my district, yeah, I mean, all these rules make sense. For Lockett and Lee, it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I would argue though, even I can go into like Verso, there's some subdivisions and neighborhoods in Verso that where you've got acre lots that if I go in there and put 10 dogs today, it could be an issue with the neighborhood.
It could.
Yeah, it could, yeah.
You want us to, how about y'all just table it and we go back and look at those things that Supervisor Emmert has brought up there, I'll say ambiguous, and we can go back and try to.
Thanks for the input.
Nail those down.
I make a motion that we table it.
Second.
There's a motion, seconded.
Yeah.
Harris?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Desmond?
Yes.
Tim? Ken?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yeah.
David?
Yes.
And my vote's yes. Table to a later date.
And Ms. Booker?
All right, we got to go back now.
Yep, yes, sir. Go back to item 8.
All right, we're gonna go back to the consent agenda. Everybody's had time to look over that. Any comments, questions, changes?
Move that we approve consent agenda as written.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. David?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Desmond?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Young man, talk to me.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Scott, it's your turn, young man.
Welcome to the hot seat tonight, Scott.
We're glad to see you, boy.
It's a great public here. I'm going to be requesting one for June in a second, so. But some old business from the last time I was here. I just want to say good evening to the board and thank you for having me, first of all.
Good evening.
Thank you.
The last time I was here, one of you brought a concern to me about the bridge at Worsham, 665. It was getting pretty rough, you said, and I went out there and looked, and they had repaired it the day I went out to look at it, and there was a lot of cold mix in it where they had to patch it up. So thank you for letting me know about that.
Thank you.
Still rough, but.
Yes, sir. That we've been patching that up a good bit, and that's it's not too far from being worked on.
Okay.
I can't give you a date on it at the moment, but it's nearing the end of its life.
Okay.
Another concern was brought up, Isham, off Rattler's Branch. The transition area there was starting to need some work. We got that touched up shortly after that last meeting. And then just more recently, we fixed on Peaks at the church there, the ditch leads the water away from the road. We got that taken care of, I think late last week. And then on Singleton Road near the wood processing plant, we cleaned those culverts out, got the water flowing back like it's supposed to. So just wanted to update you guys on some of those concerns. I want to thank you for doing the work session with me, squeezing me in. I had a chance to talk to Supervisor Townsend a little bit before the meeting. I thought I was being conservative enough. The way I timed the work sessions, we really don't have the budget numbers for the next year at the time, but to give me time to work with you guys and then do the programming, I kind of get the numbers after the fact. So I thought I was being real conservative by only saying we should only program 2 miles instead of 4 miles. But the way it has worked out, I'm being required to adjust projects we already had for inflation at a greater rate than I was planning on doing it to be safe and not have to cut something in the future. So that's really cut into the money that I would have had to use to program anything 6 years from now. So it seems like David knows where I'm going with this. And then the other tool that I get to use to program roads for the future is when we close out the ones that we just finished, there's normally remainders that I get to roll forward. But as I was telling you in the work session, you know, our costs are going up with that inflation that we've all been experiencing. So there's not as much money to roll forward. So long story short, we didn't waste our time. I'm going to save the notes from that meeting, but I don't want to add anything to the plan. We just need to have a public hearing in June and just approve the same plan we already had and then revisit it again this time next year.
We just add this like a 13-year plan, Scott. Oh, Dessa, you're out. I'm just telling you, you're out.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
All that horse trade.
I'm listening there.
We've gotten some really good work done since I've been with VDOT and working with this board, and we're going to continue to do that. The numbers just are what they are. If I had it to give you, I'd say let's program every road we got, but it just is what it is. So I would like to request the board to approve us doing a public hearing in June so that we can, get that plan updated and just, keep that current. The other thing I wanted to update you on, the school traffic work group that Administrator Stanley got us, he asked me to work on, the school traffic, and that resulted in a work group. And Supervisor Jones is on the work group, and the PTA, Sheriff's Office comes, the school, VDOT. We get a lot of input from a lot of directions, and every time we've met, we've come up with a tweak to make. In the beginning, it was, closing a few parking spaces and, timing the school crossing guard, just, looking at what he was doing. It flowed a little better, and then we met again, and thanks to the drone footage that Trey gets, we get to see, the campus as a whole and what's going on in different places at the same time. But realized that the school buses, the way they maneuver through the campus, towards the end of the morning school rush, when they would go to park at the bus garage, it made it where anybody coming out of the middle school wasn't going to go towards Granite Falls because the buses were in the way. So Mr. Good was, willing to, contribute to the traffic problem, and he has the buses now wait so that they're not in the way. And we've had a message board installed at the middle school encouraging parents to go out the backside of campus and come around the 15 on Granite Falls, and it was an immediate noticeable improvement.
All right.
So
Success.
it was like a week or so before the spring break. It flowed great like every day that week. And then I noticed I came earlier to drop my kids off. I'm part of the problem.
There you go, Scott.
Earlier yesterday, it was flowing really well. Today I got there, the sheriff's office was doing their part. They were issuing a citation, it appeared. But so the traffic was a little more backed up today than it was yesterday, but I think it was an unusual circumstance on that. But I'm going to continue to keep you guys updated. We have another meeting next Friday, the 21st. Friday, a week from now, a week from this Friday. But it's been a really fun project to work on with the different contributors in the county, and just all the players. So it's been the thing I ended up looking forward to each month doing. So just wanted to thank everybody that's involved and just keep you guys updated. I also wanted to mention we got the sinkhole repaired on Pisgah Church Road. We had a drainage pipe underneath the road. It was corrugated metal pipe, probably 40 to 50 years old. I don't know the age of it, but old, past its usable service life. It failed. The material under the road got washed out over time, and the asphalt caved in. But got that repaired back in about 36 hours, and we shouldn't have to deal with the drainage problem there ever again under the road. So in that same area, Supervisor Jenkins, I submitted a speed study about 2.5 months ago now, I believe, on Route 600 and on Pisgah. So when that comes back, I'll let you know what it says. It's still in the traffic engineer's hands. So you can tell your constituents there that it's still under review. That was all I brought for tonight to update you guys with, but I'll open it up to you now if you have any concerns you'd like to bring to me this month.
I have two concerns. First, back to the middle school situation in the morning. With that arrow pointing you to go right and go Granite,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
mean, that inconveniences me a lot when I have to go downtown. If that traffic to the left is clear, I mean, totally clear, you still have to make the right and go Granite?
Right now, we're encouraging it, and I want to
Right, I
say
know
yes,
you're
because even if it's clear, what it does, if you turn left, then you come down past the elementary school. So Officer Freeman's there directing traffic. He has to stop incoming traffic longer to let you come out.
No, what I'm saying, if he is finished with the traffic.
Oh, if it's
Right.
after 8 o'clock, then you
Yeah.
can do whatever you want.
No, he's finished directing at the elementary.
If he's still-
I'm talking about totally clear.
Totally clear.
Yeah.
See, the whole idea with that sign that's there is during the morning rush, if somebody turns right and goes out that way, you don't have to stop traffic longer to let them out through the incoming traffic. You're allowing more people more time that way. I don't know if I'm explaining it properly. Maybe anybody else on the panel can jump in, but
Anyway, I just turned right.
The sign program to turn off at
8:15, okay, yeah. So I think Officer Freeman's typically out of the road between 8 o'clock and 8:05, it seems
Right.
like, so.
There can still be just a.
Still some
little bit of a
residual.
rush there at the elementary school.
Yes, ma'am, so.
And if you're trying to get downtown between 7:45 and 8:15 from the middle school, you're gonna be faster taking Granite
So
Falls.
I was planning to say that next. It's like, it may feel like we're
Sometimes.
inconveniencing you, but if you can just freely flow out, hit Granite Falls, hit 15 and come back, you probably not be an inconvenience to do that versus cutting through the school campus. It's a toss-up, but the whole idea is it's better for everybody. You know, when it's backed up all the way on to 460,
Yeah.
that's a problem. But
Oh, I know about
with the
all
tweaks
that.
we've been making, it's been working. So I'm gonna encourage everybody to keep complying with what we've done. You know. So tell your friends and family too.
Scott, there was another question. With the snow removing money, we didn't have to remove much snow this year. There's money left. Could some of that money be used for some of the safety projects? And then you know what I'm gonna ask.
I could finish your
You know what
question
I'm
for
gonna
you,
ask.
but I'll let you continue.
What happens to that money?
Well, it's different every year. You're correct that this year we had a light winter and we didn't spend our entire snow budget, but statewide, they look at, some areas may have had overspent in snow and some areas underspent. So they look at it as holistically for the whole Commonwealth. And then there are times where they do give it back to the district, which is 10 counties, and then the district redistributes it. You typically have a tight turnaround time on getting it spent because it's tied to the fiscal year. But I haven't been told I'm getting it yet, but I know a good use for it if we.
Well, right now, I'm looking district-wise, and if you happen to get it, maybe conditions on Abilene Road
That's
could
something
be expedited.
that could be a use for it. Once
Just
we
keep
know
us
we're
in
gonna,
mind.
yeah, once we know we're getting it, then we'll share the plan with
Okay.
you. But you bring up Abilene Road, we've been chipping away at that year after year with our county safety money. And
Just
the
keep
goal
on
is, the goal is to continue with that widening work until we get from where we left off to Darlington Heights. So I could certainly see spending a little bit of it there if we get it.
Thank you, Scott.
No problem. Any other comments or concerns?
Well, thank you for getting those Chevron signs up on Fire Forks Road.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for bringing it up and getting us, just put that work order in.
Hope nobody knocks one down. They're good.
Yep.
Scott, Spring Creek, the railroad crossing, I know that you put up a sign there, but do they plan to do anything with that? There were 2 trailers that couldn't come in there today. I was there this morning, and
At this time, there's no project plan there to upgrade that railroad crossing that's been shared with me. The railroad controls that little portion of where the road crosses the tracks. I can't go in there and work without their permission, even if I wanted to. So I'm not aware of any plans to upgrade it. Until you brought that to my attention, I had no idea how bad that hump was right there. I could certainly see how it's a problem.
problem is now that when the trucks get there and there's a sign there, they don't know where to go and there's nowhere to go. You can't back up to go the other way, and they have to go all the way through to Abilene then to turn.
Okay, so it's like we need to sign it at the nearest.
It needs to be a sign at the
other end of the road.
At the other end that it's
Okay, that's a good comment there. We did something similar. It's not a railroad anymore, but at High Bridge, we signed the intersections farther back for that one bridge that's low right there in Cumberland County side of the river. So we need to do that at the intersection further back from that crossing.
If y'all have any openings at the state, we're gonna put Miss Pride in that position, so.
I've been willing to serve diligently.
I'm getting ready to let her handle my district.
No.
Doing right
I've
well.
been up on mine.
Put her over all of my list.
That's right, right.
All right, well, if there's nothing else, I'll get out of you guys' way.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for all your efforts.
Thank you.
Scott.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Let's see, lost my place, it's a
Community
partner
partnership.
update. Melanie Foster.
Weren't you supposed to go before the public hearing?
Commonwealth Regional Council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I know most of you here. I think there's a few new members I haven't met since last year when I was here. So my name is Melody Foster. I'm the Executive Director of the Commonwealth Regional Council. The council is one of 21 planning districts in the state of Virginia, and we cover the counties of Amelia, Buckingham, Charlotte, Cumberland, Lunenburg, Nottaway, Prince Edward, and the 11 towns that encompass those 7 counties. I turn your attention to, if you're not that familiar with us, each month you have items of interest that are usually in your board packet. This month it was a little different. I tasked one of my staff members we wanted to change it up some, so I hope this month you enjoyed the change in scenery of the items of interest. Has some pictures now, a little bit more, upbeat. You'll notice it's probably a little bit less words, but we hope each month to highlight different things to change it up, but this should bring your attention to our organization. I was just asked to come and give a little bit of input on our organization over the last year, and I know it's been a long meeting, so I'm going to keep this really brief. You were given, each one of you, this was placed at your place tonight, and again, this is a year-end review. I'm just going to go over a few things that are here. On page 1, what most people think about when they think about us is grant funding. The fact that we do free grant writing and we assist localities all the time in applying for grants. Last year, you can see in the top right corner, we were able to bring in $25.6 million in grants for the entire region. For Prince Edward County, that was $9.6 million in grant funds. And then also for regional grants that touch all 7 of our counties. A lot of times it's work that we do at the council that we get grant funding to do, or their projects for all 7 counties, was $2.6 million in regional grants. Under that, you'll see some of the work we do also is project administration, and 2 projects that are highlighted there. One is funding that we received from Virginia Housing to start a affordable housing program for all 7 counties. We received $2 million to do that project over several years, and we were tasked to do 20 housing units throughout the 7-county region. We were able, through 3 housing partners, to have 21 housing units that are going to be developed by the end of that project. 5 of which are in Prince Edward County. Actually, they're right here in the town of Farmville. 4 of them are close to being done by Piedmont Habitat over in Andrew Drive. So I know you've seen, if you've been through Farmville, you've seen those. Another big project that Prince Edward is a part of is the VADI project, and VADI stands for Virginia Telecommunications Initiative. It's an initiative of the state to bring broadband to all of the state of Virginia. Prince Edward is part of a 3-county project, Cumberland, Lunenburg, and Prince Edward. And it involves Connex Telecom as the provider. Once the project is complete, there will be 10,734 passings in all 3 counties. 5,656 will be made in Prince Edward County. That's total once the project is done. Some other things that have been expansions of our services over the past year. We did redistricting in 6 of the 7 counties. I know we worked extensively with Prince Edward, and I think most recently came back and did some things that Sarah wanted some additional information on the mapping. So that project has been completed, and we're still doing a few mapping things for the counties, but that's something that we did assist the county with that's done every 10 years. We also, at the request of the counties, did some facilitated discussions about creating a new regional economic development organization for our region. 5 of our 7 counties are not currently a member of a REDO. Prince Edward is one of those. And as a result of those conversations, we received a grant from Go Virginia to have a business plan and strategy developed to stand up a new REDO. We're in the process right now of getting ready to have our first meeting with our consultants that we hired to get this going. The plan is to have that plan and strategy done by the fall. You can see there's other additional things on that front page about additional services. Some things that you might be interested in is once a year, we usually host a Freedom of Information Advisory Council, a FOIA officer training workshop. That's something, as you as elected board members usually are required to update that once a year. We usually host that in the spring and summer. I also usually attend VDOT public forums to provide comments for the region. Actually, one is coming up on May 17th that would cover this county as well, and I do plan on attending that. You'll see on the back page, again, just highlighting a lot of the services that we do. One project that's highlighted there is the Longwood Seed Innovation Hub. Most of you might have saw in the paper recently, Senator Mark Warner was just here to highlight that project as well. So I'll answer any questions, but most of the information regarding the services we have are on this flyer that we've provided you. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to take the opportunity to thank Melody and her staff for everything they've done, not only for the county, but our citizens and helping us. We really look at it as they're an extension of our staff, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, next, Piedmont Senior Resources, Ms. Justine Young, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Seems like I was just here. I was just here last month, right? So I really couldn't remember where I left off last month. So hopefully I'm not repeating myself, but there are so many wonderful things to tell you guys about. But I did want to make a comment since I didn't speak on the other issues. I really feel for you guys having to make these decisions, and I knew almost all these folks that were speaking tonight. Really hard for me to listen, but I do remember my grandfather built, I believe, the first solar house in this county about 40 years ago, and it operated until his death, but he was an electrical engineer, and after he died, there was nobody to fix any of it. So, but it ran, I think, for about 30 years. It's very interesting. But I want to start off with, I know I mentioned before the grant from U.S. Aging, and I wanted to bring that up again. It was interesting, you had a speaker tonight talking about COVID, but that grant is going to benefit this county so much and the whole region, because within that $168,000, I have explained to Dr. Allman that we can easily provide $20,000 or more in equipment for her department. And that equipment will allow them more mobility and flexibility. And I think that's really important if we consider that we could have some other kind of event in the future. Let's hope not. But I think as the world continues to evolve, we will see more things like COVID. I think it's going to be a trend, unfortunately. And I would love to see our health department have the ability to reach out to citizens where they are And I think that might help our rate of success with certain vaccinations. Those numbers that we heard earlier were rather dismal, and I was disappointed to hear we're so low because I know that the health department and my agency has worked very hard to help get people vaccinated.
Didn't the college kids count against us pretty badly in that, when they took that reading? Like, the college kids didn't get their shots here. They went home and got their shots, and it's a lot of them.
They hurt us on that, our census data and lots of other,
Zip codes.
Huge
That sounds crazy,
vaccination.
but there's a huge number of people in our county that live in zip codes that their
In multiple
post
counties.
offices are in another jurisdiction.
Yes.
And so the way the mapping and the demographics were sorted through the whole vaccination process, myself being one in particular, I'm in the Central Virginia Health District. My vaccines count in mine and my family's.
she's in
And a
Pampa.
lot of people that live.
Burkeville, I mean, yeah.
So I'm gonna say.
Anomalies in the data, is that
There's a
fair?
lot of anomalies, and so
Yeah.
we just had to work with our partners and continue the vaccination efforts and not worry about the data.
Okay, sorry.
So either way, I mean, I think this equipment, the type of equipment we're looking at buying, and I'm waiting, Dr. Allman is actually going to produce a list for me. So she's working on that, and we will be able to then purchase that equipment. But I just want to say that here's an opportunity that we've been able to access for our community. I know I told you all before that we have been writing a lot of grants at Piedmont Senior Resources, and now have, I think I said 5 of my staff have successfully written 1 or more grants. So we're writing a lot of grants, and when you look at the amount of funding we bring into the county, I think this year it's about $3.5 million that we brought into the region. But as you know, since we're located in Prince Edward County gets the biggest boost from that and the biggest benefit. Majority of our employees are based here in Prince Edward County. And while I'm on that topic, I might add that we are now at around 50-some employees. It fluctuates here and there, but 50-some employees. And I believe that we pay well, and thanks to Dr. Pride and the rest of the members on our board, we have chosen to pay employees well. We have an extremely high retention rate. I think that speaks very well. And that allows us to train people to do things like write grants and go out and develop their own programs that benefit so many areas. I know I mentioned Nikki Dean and some of the work she's done, but one of the things she's been doing are pet grants. And so we started off getting multiple pet grants from Meals on Wheels America, because remember with that, the first grants were for food, then she got a nice grant for veterinary care, which is very important for these seniors who only have this pet. It's the only thing they have, and they can't afford the veterinary care. So that's been wonderful, and then Nikki expanded that and said, well, let me just ask the community for donations, because when the grants for food run out, we get those once or twice a year, but in between, we don't have the money. Nikki started her own donation program, and that has just worked wonderfully. So we're feeding these seniors and we're taking care of their pets. It's a win-win. It makes them happy, they feel better, and their pets are healthier, and in translate, it also makes the owner healthier, in all honesty. So that's just really important. I think that as we continue to grow, I think we will continue our partnerships with the county, with the health department, with so many organizations we've been working with. Our footprint here has grown. When we first moved here, we rented 3,800 square feet. We just added an additional 2,000 square feet last year. We've already used that all up. So I had to build a loft in that 2,000 square feet to add another 1,000 square feet. And that is for all of the food that we are providing. Not only do we provide the meals that we deliver weekly, but we also once a month deliver out another 10,000 pounds or so of shelf-stable food. And so all that has to be stored somewhere so we can ship it out when we do that. So a lot of things going on there. I think I mentioned a lot of the awards that we have gotten in the last couple of years, and we're very proud of those. Again, it speaks to the ability of my staff. I did I mention the doorbell project last time? Because I don't want to go over it. But if you guys don't remember it, so Nikki recently came up with an idea. So many of our seniors can't hear when we come to the door to deliver their meals. Well, we can't leave the meals, okay? So, because there's all kinds of rules about that, and it's food, and you can't leave it sitting outside, especially not in the summer. So in order to combat that, because it's difficult if our drivers have to turn around and bring those meals back, that individual may not get those meals, and it's a week's worth of meals. They may not get them till the following week. So Nikki found these doorbells that our drivers could install themselves. It's basically a glue-on doorbell on the outside and 2 plug-ins that go wherever you want to put them in the house, so all the way in the back or in the room they normally sit in. And when somebody hits that doorbell, and you can set the volume, so it can be super loud for those who have a lot of difficulty hearing, and now they know that our drivers are there, and they can get to the door and get the meals. And so I think that was just really, really important, but that was one of those things of ingenuity, and basically, we had some art funds, and I said to the staff, we want to spend this money responsibly. We want to spend it, though. We don't want to give it back, and we want it to benefit our citizens and our counties. And so I need you guys to come up with projects to do that are meaningful, and this was one of those projects. So we'll continue to purchase those doorbells. We've gotten a great response to that. I know I mentioned that marriage request to you guys, but I don't think the marriage had taken place at that time. We worked with the court, the clerk of the court here. We had a couple who wanted to get married. They're quite elderly. The gentleman was, he's a double amputee. He's a veteran. He could not leave the home. And she could drive, but it was not possible to move him, and we could not bring him to the courthouse. And so we called the courthouse, talked to the folks we needed to talk to, got the marriage license, had to get a notary out there to do all that with him. And then somebody had to go out and perform the ceremony from the courthouse. And all of that got done, and they are officially married, and so appreciative. That is not in the scope of duties that our agency does, okay? But what I tell my staff and what I tell everyone is, if we can help, why wouldn't we? We can't help with everything. Obviously, there are things we don't do. But this was something that we could do to help a senior couple that meant so much to them, extremely meaningful. So I thought that was a good story. We took over for the Farmville Area Ministerial Associations. They provide funding sometimes to help people pay electric bills, utility bills, emergency bills. They were having a struggle with that. They were actually, their secretary had been blessed out several times and just couldn't answer the phone anymore. And so they called us and asked if we would take over that program. And I said, absolutely, we would be happy to. So that is funded by the churches, but we administer the money, we take the calls, the applications, and we handle that. So that's been easy, something easy for us to do, and that has nothing to do with being age 60 and over, which is what we typically serve. That's for everybody, but that was to help our churches out and let them still be able to do this kind of program, but not have to administer it. We're probably better at that because this poor secretary was in tears a few times. I think I also did not mention, just to, again, bring up our footprint, I'm on the executive committee for the Virginia Area Agencies on Aging Board. I am on the executive committee for the SE4A Board, which is the Southeastern Area Agencies on Aging, and I am on the U.S. Aging Board of Directors. That is how I got the $168,000 grant, to be honest with you. And so that access through these boards is very important. I hear about grants first. I hear about opportunities, and if you know me, you know I am not going to leave an opportunity. If I hear about it and I can grab it, I'm going after it. And so that works really, really well, and I'm very proud of what we've been able to do with that. We've recently been invited to speak at the Senior Law Day that Legal Aid does usually every year. That got left off during COVID, but we will take part in that and assist with sharing information to seniors about what we can do for them. We also were invited, Dr. Allman invited me to speak and be part of a meeting that was held, and I know Sarah was there, so with the whole state and all the departments of health throughout the state. So that was really interesting to talk about the partnerships that we've developed here in our area. And I thought that was really meaningful because 5 years ago, that would never have happened. And it's just thanks to Mr. Stanley and everybody else that's been involved in those things, and Dr. Allman. It's just been a wonderful relationship. Also, recently, Mr. Stanley came and spoke at our employee banquet, and I really appreciated that. I thought it would be nice to have his perspective given to all of our employees. And I think we had about 60-some people present at that employee banquet. And it is very meaningful for those employees to hear from their county representatives. And, you know, I would invite any of you, anytime you want to come and talk to my staff, let me know, and I'll be glad to have you come and talk to them and hear what they have to say, because they love their work and they love the impact they have had here. And finally, I will tell you that in 9 months, I will qualify for services. And so, just so you know how important it is to me, I don't care how old I am. It is really personally important to me that this agency do well. When I retire soon, I hope, I want it to be the best that it can be. I want it to provide everything it can provide to the seniors in this area. Again, it can't do everything for everybody, but we want it to be able to do everything that it can. And I thank you all for your trust and your support. It's been amazing to see the changes over the last few years, and I so appreciate it, and I hope you're proud of what we've done and understand what we do there at the agency for folks. And another misconception, a lot of people think we're only helping people in a low-income bracket. That is not true. If any of you are getting ready to go on Medicare, anybody, we do Medicare counseling, and we really, April Ross is an expert on that. And if you don't really understand it, and as a nurse and somebody who works in healthcare has done it for years, that stuff's complicated. I wouldn't want to be figuring it out by myself. April's an expert. We've got a computer program that assists. It's free. Come see us. Let us help you, because you do not want to get stuck paying a fortune for drugs that you thought were going to be covered under your Medicare plan and are not, because you picked the wrong plan. And that happens to a lot of people. And once you do that, you're stuck for another year. You got to wait till open enrollment comes back around. And then you got to figure out again which plan was the right plan for you. So that's something we do for everyone. So I really appreciate you giving me this chance to speak. And on a last note, we are doing a fundraising event on May 13th from 10 to 2 at the Prince Edward County Middle School. And this is a first responders event designed for children. Again, I know I told y'all about the Easter Bunny event. We had 63 children show up. It was wonderful. So now we're doing this event in order to get the children a chance to engage firsthand with our emergency responders and be able to touch the equipment. Get in the police car, turn on the sirens, get in the rescue squad, blow the horns, all of those things. So we've contacted all of our local organizations, the EMS, the fire department, the police, everybody, and they will be out there at the middle school, and the kids will be able to get in these vehicles and talk to these guys and have a real hands-on experience, which I think will be wonderful. So, thank you all very much. Any questions?
Don't you think 75 sounds like a good retirement age for you from this job?
No.
Do it longer. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
Jesse.
night.
All right, now we're going to move on to solid waste. Jeff, please.
Good evening, everyone. How are y'all doing? I've just got a couple of things to update. I'm sure if any of you have been down 460, you've seen the work going on at Rice, the convenience site at Rice. All the brush was cleared last week. They have started digging dirt. The sediment pond was put in today. They anticipate on continuing to do grade work this week and most of next week. I even think they almost got the new entrance put in. Bill, if you want to ride down and look at it. I've been going down every couple of days and kind of keeping an eye on a temporary Rice site, make sure everything's been picked up and pretty clean down there. We actually put a fence up behind the dumpsters that we have at the temporary site, so if anything falls off or wind blows, then nothing will get on the property behind us. The month of January, we took in 2,798 tons of trash, 825 truckloads. February, we took in 2,636 tons of trash with 915 trucks. In March, we took in 3,284 tons of trash with over 1,000 trucks. The month of February, we had a DEQ stormwater inspection, which went very well. We got a good report on that. We just had our landfill DEQ inspection. Everything went well on that. The new loader's been on the yard for about 2 or 3 months now, and everything's working great with that. Thank y'all for investing in us a new piece of equipment. It's doing very well. We're in the process of going from 175 tons a day to 300 tons a day. The reason that is I'm sure y'all know that so many days throughout each month, we've hit 175 tons, and I've had to shut the landfill down. We're only allowed to take brush and dirt after that. So we're working with Labella, the engineering firm, and with VDOT on getting the paperwork we need for the roadway and everything to go to 300 tons a day. We've been around to some of the sites, most all of them, and done grading work in Eddystone. I know we've done Verso, and we've done Prospect and Darlington Heights. We've done some work over there. We got some more to do. I am gonna be going around as it gets warmer and pressure washing all the concrete pads where the compactor machine sits. So we try to do those as we'll pressure wash those and bleach them down real good a couple times during the summer. But I do plan on start doing that over the next couple of weeks as it stays warmer. Other than that, I mean, it's just, business is normal. I mean, everything is running good. Everybody's pitching in. Our compaction rate is very good, which I know Sarah made a Facebook post about that. We're putting 2,060 pounds of trash in 1 square yard. So, which is very good. It was at 18, and that's went up another 200 pounds. So what we're doing must be working. So we're saving airspace, and overall, that's gonna make the landfill last more than we anticipated in the beginning. So that's gonna add right much, and we're starting to plan for the layout for cell F, which is the last cell from where we're working at now. We're gonna start the layout and the engineering on that here for long, so. But other than that, everything is just business as normal. I mean, I appreciate y'all, helping us with the new equipment, and, we're doing pretty good with what we got, so I thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate your report. Next, Animal Control, Adam Mumma, please.
How's everybody doing tonight? Good?
Good.
Everybody still awake? I won't lie, I would kind of nodded off a little bit, but I'm here. So just so you know, Chief Officer Adam Mumal started as of April 1st. Prior, I was working with Public Works, painting and picking up stuff and mowing grass and all that good stuff. It's just a little bit of my history. I have worked for the county for about 5 years, doing animal control, being Chief Officer. I want to say I left in 2021 for a better job opportunity, actually working for Richmond Animal League, where I was their Director of Kennel Operations. I actually learned a lot of stuff that I'm actually glad I can bring back to the county, starting back over again. Since I've only really been in a week, I can't give you a really good overview of what we've been doing for since the beginning of the year. I can tell you what to look forward to. We're going to be increasing our patrolling and enforcement throughout the county. We've got a lot of strays that we've got to pick up, random cows, as folks know, that are just kind of creating a muck. There will just be a lot more intensive response as well. I want to shorten our response time to after-hours calls so we can help the Sheriff's Department, which I would like to say the Sheriff's Department has been a humongous help just in the last week. It's coming back. It's good to see the cooperation beyond, amongst departments. Some things we'll be getting used to is Facebook, having a Facebook page and volunteers. That's definitely a big change for us since I've been back. Looking forward to making everybody happy as best we can and picking up critters and finding them good homes. So I appreciate you guys voting me back in when you did. If you have any questions, just let me know.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I think it's fair to say that Adam had quite a busy first week back.
All right, General Services, Randy Cook, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
Good evening.
First, I'd like to thank the members of the board for your support of my department. We've been here 2.5 years, and in that time, I believe we made many improvements to the maintenance procedures that we're doing at the courthouse and other facilities. Our last update was in December, and so this is some of the projects that we've been working on. Our new chiller is working well. We're making plans to get our duct system, air handling units, and VAV boxes cleaned. We've been replacing the frequency drives in our system as needed and replacing filters on a regular schedule, which is usually April and October. We met with the fire marshal and are making corrections to our fire doors, exit signs, egress routes, and storage issues. The sheriff's and magistrate's doors have been upgraded. We vented the evidence room, painted and installed new flooring for the investigator's office. We're working on an announcement system through the new telephones. We just did one test on that today, and it was successful. That's for when we need emergency announcements in the courthouse with bomb threat or shooter or whatever it may be that the sheriff needs that for. We've been inspecting our panic alarms for proper operation. The ground floor flooring is almost finished, and it looks really good. Step down there and see it sometime when you're in the courthouse. We've painted columns and trims in our atrium area. We've got wires hanging out here in the hallway. That's for the artwork that the Longwood Visual Arts Center will be displaying in the courthouse soon. We assisted the solid waste with moving the Rice Convenience Site shed and installed temporary electrical service to that building. Out at the Department of Social Services, we repaired the HVAC number 3 unit and a split system in their IT room, which was malfunctioning. We repaired trouble issues with the simplex fire alarm systems, and we're working on a yearly testing quote for the fire alarm system, which is something that hadn't been being done. At the Sandy River Reservoir, we've completed inspection of the dam and spillway, and I'm receiving quotes to have the spillway banks cut. Right now, they're covered with trees of heaven, which is not good for our spillway, and we're going to try to get that eradicated. We're also making plans on greasing the risers and the gates so that we can operate the gates. We've also painted the signs that have been there since it opened, and they're looking really good. Stop by there and see the signs. We've got 2 of them painted, and we've got 2 more to go. I also have been coordinating with Prince Edward County student Barrett Motter for a bench and some tree planting at the reservoir for his Eagle Scout project. He proposes to put a pad, a bench, and a couple of trees for someone to sit and just, enjoy the view. We've been painting, at the Ag Building, we've been painting and mulching. A new sign there should be installed soon. And we're making plans to renovate the front counter. We're waiting on our architect to get those back to us. At the cannery, we're starting on the piping project real soon. Should be next month, I think. And I will be assisting with procuring other items that was included in the cannery grant. In animal control, we've been helping Adam try to get his shelter up to state standards with painting and any other issues that he needs. So if you have any questions, let me or Doug know. If you got any work orders, just give us a call, and we thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
All right.
I will say that I walked around the front of the courthouse, the front lawn really looks nice.
Thank you. We want to keep it that way.
It looks good. Thank you. All right, Trey Pyle, Emergency Management, please.
Good morning. Good evening, board.
Good evening.
Feels like the morning, don't it? We've been here for a while.
Getting close.
Yeah, first of all, like everybody else said, I'd like to thank y'all for your support. Sarah and I both feel over the past couple of years with your support that emergency management in the county has really grown. We've been able to take on new challenges that were put in front of us, and I think all of those challenges have netted positive outcomes to the citizens of the county. Y'all heard tonight from the sheriff, one of the first, search with the drone. I was just as shocked as everybody else was when I found her, because I've been watching squirrels and turkeys and everything else, and then there she was. So a couple highlights. I know I spoke to y'all in December January after the big cold snap we had, but the last 3 months we have had 3 searches. One was in February. We had a Hilton House resident walk away. Fortunately, within about an hour, we were able to locate him in a farm with some horses. We've had 2 in March. One was a 7-year-old female special needs child that was in Meharry area. Within about an hour, hour and a half of being on site, we were able to locate her safe, not harmed. I will say the drone was about 200 or 300 feet from finding her, but PD found her first. I can't take credit for that one, but it was still a positive outcome. And then the most recent one last Friday, it was about an hour total. I was only in the air 20 minutes before I found her. So it was a very, I didn't go through one whole battery on that call. So that was good. This weekend, going along with searches, Prince Edward County and Buckingham Emergency Management is sponsoring a VDM search and rescue class. It's going to be hosted at Twin Lakes State Park. Initially, this class was going to be 30 students. We put the registration out there, pushed it out to all the fire departments, law enforcement rescue squads in both counties. And I'm proud to say that they had to up the registration, and there are 30 Prince Edward County members of departments in this class. That was a phenomenal outreach and response to this class. I was expecting 1 or 2 maybe from each department to start this and then kind of build on it over years. I will say when I looked through the registration, I was very, very pleased with what I saw. A lot of dedication there. This is a 4-series class. They're doing the first and second this weekend, and then the other ones will be later in the year. With the response I got, I'm going to try to schedule another first and second series before we move on. Maybe we can get another 20 or 30 people together. So that's good work. I'll be glad to share y'all some photos and stuff, maybe at the next board meeting, so y'all can see how that class went. I continue to work with the radio consultant and for the public safety radio system, slowly moving through that process and trying to make headway with financial planning and all that, so we can bring that back to you. Working on closing out the FEMA AFG grant that were awarded for the counties for the SCBA's, the air packs I brought in and showed y'all. Paperwork's been submitted for that. Should be hearing something shortly on getting that money back. Also assisted in submitting another AFG grant for the fire departments, this time for thermal imaging cameras. Similar to what we use on the drone, they have handheld versions that most fire departments have. Some of them are antiquated now, out of date, but they use them to look through walls, look through floors, ceiling. They don't have to pull all your walls down in your house when you got a smell in your house trying to find. The idea behind it, again, is to standardize the equipment in the county. Everybody has the same camera on every truck. So, and lastly, this past week, we maintained some situational awareness for the severe thunderstorms that were coming in. Luckily, we didn't have any big incidents. I know there was some trees down, a couple houses got struck by lightning, some stuff like that. But other than that, nothing severe. So, y'all have any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, next, Doug, request from STEPS, please.
Including your packet is, for the board's consideration, is a request for $100,000 of our ARPA funding from STEPS for their supportive housing project for the homeless of the region. As Sean Rozier advised the board during STEPS budget presentation of March 21, STEPS is preparing to sign an MOU with Virginia Supportive Housing for the project. Rather than the initial tiny home village that was initially proposed, STEPS has determined it would be best to construct a 60 to 80 unit apartment building with an emergency shelter on one floor and supportive housing services for the homeless in the remainder of the facility. STEPS has indicated they are working with VSH and the town of Farmville to obtain the necessary approvals for the project. It is STEPS' intent to request funding from each of the counties in the region to support the project. They're requesting $100,000 from Prince Edward as the primary user of homeless services in the region, $75,000 from Nottoway as the second largest user, and a $50,000 match from the other localities, including Buckingham, Cumberland, Amelia, and Lunenburg. I would note that I believe Nottoway has approved the $75,000 requested match. In your packet, you have a letter from Sean, who is here tonight, to answer any other questions you may have. I've also got a spreadsheet there looking at the ARPA funding and how we've utilized it. $2,153,500 was used as our VATI match for the Connects project, and we've earmarked $25,000 for the Pamplin parking lot project. And we've got $100,000 proposed to the Housing Finance Committee, worked on that last year and had earmarked that funding. Sean, anything that I've missed that you want to add?
No, we just appreciate y'all's consideration.
I think part of the switch from the tiny homes to the apartment building had to do with some of the county concerns over ongoing costs and operations. And, you know, while we may all be interested in providing a donation up front, maybe we're not interested in helping to fund ongoing operations. Sean, you may want to touch on that. But also, I want to note that y'all have had a private citizen in Prince Edward that's committed $250,000 for the project, which has really helped y'all kind of get this concept off the ground, correct?
Absolutely. We've already gotten good support, and I think there was included in your packet the funding that we've received for the project already. And the big consideration that we've really tried to keep in mind is the operational costs. And so Virginia Supportive Housing brings the expertise in property development and management, but then also the operational aspects of what it costs to operate. And so they recommended the 60 to 80 unit apartment complex. So
What about Cumberland, Buckingham? What's their take on it?
we've put in requests to each of those counties for 50,000 of their ARPA funds, and those are still pending before those counties. I did recently send a letter to the county administrator of Buckingham at his request.
Any response?
Not yet. I just sent it last week, though.
Supervisor Townsend, if you look, the proposed motion, I've included language that references subject to approval of the 75,000 for Nottaway and participation from each of the other localities. I didn't put a dollar amount,
Right.
but I felt like, you know, they all need to participate in some way if we're going to make this work. But I certainly realize we're the regional hub for a lot of things, including homelessness. Right?
I'll make a motion to approve appropriation of 100,000, subject to 75,000 match from Nottaway, and participation from each of the other localities in the region, as well as necessary zoning approval from the town of Palmer for the project.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Odessa?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Harrison?
No.
David?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Motion is carried.
All right, we thank you all very much.
All right. Good
All
luck.
right, next, Cheryl Stimson. School cares funding, please.
Appropriations, I know y'all love to talk about appropriations. It's not gonna be as bad as last month. The first one is a public hearing request because of this amount of money the schools is asking for CARES funds. It was $949,999.64. So, that is above the 1% that we, can allow for, on their budget. So, that's that one, is to request a public hearing for that money, for that CARES Act money.
This is.
Yes, advertising a hearing, right?
Correct. This is just to advertise the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, seconded. Odessa?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Cannon?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
My vote's yes.
The second appropriation is also for CARES Act funding for the schools in the amount of $375,000. Last month, I brought the first part of this request to you, which you approved, and this is the second part.
Make a motion that that be approved.
Second.
Have a motion, seconded, David,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Cannon,
Yes.
Bill,
Yeah.
Dessa,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Harrison.
Yes.
My vote is yes.
And the last school appropriation is for $1,841.15 of federal funds for Title VI Part A funding.
Title IV.
Sorry. It's late. I'm tired.
I make a motion that that appropriation be done.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, seconded, Harrison,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Dessa,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Cannon,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
David.
Yes.
My vote's yes.
I'm also going to cover 2 appropriations from the table pack so that I won't have to get back up here and ask for more money,
Okay.
Okay.
just to make it easy for everybody. The first one is the 4 for Life appropriation. It says the county has received a check in the amount of $17,796.48 from the Virginia Department of Health from the 2021 4 for Life program calendar year. These funds pursuant to Section 46.2-694 Code of Virginia shall be used only for emergency medical services. And the board is asked to approve the appropriation and issuance of funds as follows. So Hampden-Sydney First Responders, $2,000, Meharon Rescue, $3,949.12, and Peavers, $11,847.36.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion, seconded, David,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Cannon,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Dessa,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
and my vote is yes. One more.
One more, and this is for the Commonwealth Regional Councils submitted a request for reimbursement through the Tobacco Region Revitalization Commission grant for the Business Park Road Development Project. The county received 2 disbursements in March totaling $255,384.28, and the board is asked to transfer that money from the Economic Development Fund into the general fund expenditure line to recoup costs previously approved and expended.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made, and seconded, Bill,
Yes.
Cannon,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Harrison,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Dessa.
Yes.
My vote is yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you so much.
Let's see, all right, Terry Atkins Wilson. Turn this report, please.
I might call it earlier, I think I went the wrong way.
Good evening.
Good
evening. Just like the previous speaker, I feel like I was just here yesterday. We did wrap up at the very beginning, right after the last meeting, the deed of easement to the town of Farmville and the Second Amendment out at Lowe's. Got those recorded and returned, and everybody's happy with all of that. There's been, we have a new national opioid agreement that was executed and signed and delivered, and 2 agreements for that. We also had a review of the Elam Road solar siting agreement, review of that, and a review of a wayfinding Phase 1 agreement. Working with the IDA, we're working still on projects there. So, anyway, anybody have any questions, concerns?
Any progress on some of these ordinances? I know it's quite a few to go through. I've been looking at any of those, and upgrading them.
We've,
Working on it right now, but it don't work.
Go right ahead.
we've been working on several of those. I know with Megan Clark, we've been working on
Some
of that.
20%, 30%, 50, 100?
I think between, once we get zoning knocked out, I think we're probably, at least probably 40 or so.
Right.
Yeah, I think we've
Yeah.
made good progress.
Yes. Appreciate it. And it does take, those folks that are in the trenches to help know what they are doing and what they're not doing, and also to look at all of the regs. And, my job is fairly easy once they've had that input. But those are the folks that deal with it on a day-to-day basis, and they know what works, what doesn't, and a lot of them know what's changed with the state. They get that information. So it's just getting all the players together and reviewing everything, but
Looks like quite an encyclopedia over there.
yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
All right, Doug, your report, please.
First, next week on the 18th, we have our budget public hearing at 7 PM. We talked about maybe not having a work session at 5:30. Part of that was predicated on, we were hoping this week the General Assembly was going to give us a budget. The latest I've heard, it may be June before we have a budget. So unless the board feels otherwise, I think we're good just to go for the 7 o'clock public hearing and forego because I don't have any additional information to share with you.
On the 18th.
Yes, sir. Building inspection software, the county and town community development staff participated in the Zoom demonstration on a product called Cloud Permit. Cloud Permit's a software system would provide a much more modern platform for both staff and the contractor community. Would allow for remote permit applications. People could apply for them online and pay for them online and not have to come down necessarily to the office. And also, when, the inspection is approved, an email or text can be sent out and notify the contractor, hey, your inspection was, completed and you passed. We're looking at one other similar system, and then hopefully we'll be able to bring a recommendation to the board in the next month or so on that. We think the cost will be covered with our existing budget. We'll keep you posted. Emergency radio system in November of 2022, and we've got it on the agenda on the table pack, but Prince Edward was awarded $88,500 from the State Homeland Security Grant Program to offset the cost of radio system consultants. CTA were assisting the county with the development of a P25 compliant public safety radio system. The grant is 100% federally funded reimbursement grant that requires no local match from the county. It basically means you got to spend it first and then you get reimbursed for it. The next phase is to allow CTA to move forward with developing a requirements document based off the selected option of the trunked UHF radio system. That will allow Motorola to generate their proposal and cost of the system based off the needs of the county as identified by CTA. This phase of the project will be covered by the grant money and will allow the county to better budget and plan moving forward. That part of the process will take about 9 to 12 months to complete. Again, we've already got some money, I think $100,000 in the proposed budget to start building towards debt service for that project. But the reality is we're probably 2 or 3 budget years away from implementing, but this would keep us moving the project forward. Courthouse cupola, one of the projects that Randy's working on is to get the cupola and the associated, what do you call them, seraphinials? The things that look like an urn, I'll call them an urn, up on the top of the cupola replaced. Contractor is scheduled to come in the week of the April 24th to get that project completed, so we're looking forward to that.
Way low bidder compared to the others, right?
Yes. Industrial Park Access Road is making significant progress. If you haven't been out there across the YMCA, take a look at it. And then last thing I was going to mention was, we talked about the solar and comp plan tonight. One of the things that Robbie and I have been working on is getting the comp plan update moving forward. And we hope to be able to bring that to you. We're looking to bring in an outside consultant, somebody that has a lot of solar experience that can help us kind of guide and look at those issues that were mentioned tonight during the public hearing. But we're past due for comp plan update. It's supposed to be reviewed every 5 years. COVID really put a kibosh on that. Just a lot of communities, the ability to, have public meetings and go through that process was stymied. So we're looking to hopefully get that process started here in the next 6 months, and it'll probably take a couple years to get completed. But we can't get it finished till we get it started. So we're hoping to bring something to you here in the next few months. That's all I have, unless there are any questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I was gonna ask Sarah, how about the perimeter of the county? How are we coming along with that? Have we got all that? Trying to get 911 addresses.
So we completed all of the boundaries, the PSAP boundaries? Yes, sir. All of that was done in the context of public safety. I think there's still work to do on parcel data and I'm going to say in the boundaries of the county related to where certain properties are taxed. That would be a whole different scope of work, but in terms of public safety, all of the public safety answering points, that's the acronym PSAP, all of that work was completed. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anyone have anything else? Harrison? Are we gonna, motion to recess?
Well, just before we do, just a quick question, I guess, to Doug or the board or whoever. When applicants such as Tim and Nate Beamer go before the planning commission, with their ordinances, any time that anything is changed from use, I was just looking through here, then it changes their, parking places and everything else, anything over 5,000 square feet, which is 200 by 250, has to be concrete or asphalt. We didn't require that of them tonight, but that's.
So the basic rules and regulations are in place. The conditional special use permit process allows you to put additional conditions to address neighborhood impacts on that. But all those base rules are still in place. None of that changes. So they'll have to do a site plan and go through that process.
What I'm getting at is, do they know that? I mean, like even with Sandy River, they have all their parking places.
Yeah, your ag exempt stuff is different than industrial. Your exemptions are different. Now, even they are supposed to require to have their handicap spot hard surface, because that's a state or ADA requirement. But, yeah, I'd have to talk to Robbie to see, that was also an existing building in use.
Right, but with our ordinance, any time that the existing building is added to.
Addition, yeah.
Anything that's changed on it whatsoever.
Yeah, so the ordinance is the ordinance. None of that changes. We can't waive that. That's in the ordinance.
That's case in point to the board of what I was talking about a little while ago. There's piles of things that have come in the last little while that they're not in compliance with our ordinances whatsoever. I mean, not whatsoever.
Like, give me an example if you could.
Well, an example would be, Sandy River, the brewery there, their parking places, it has to be asphalt or concrete.
Again, as a ag exempt, the state doesn't let us put all the requirements on an ag exempt property. What do you call them,
But there's not, maybe I should have said that different, maybe not the brewery, but because they have a swimming pool, because they have, houses, because they have, I mean, there's a whole list, there's literally a list here of 5 pages of different things that changes.
And I couldn't tell you when the pool and stuff across the road came in. I know that was before I got here, but we could certainly go out and take a look at it.
Well, I'm just saying.
Enforce it if we have to.
That's the whole, my whole beef with all of this. Section 4-2, which is what I asked for tonight, specifically says, now I'll read it to you. any exterior area used for storage, service, maintenance, repair, processing, manufacturing, fabrication, salvage, refuse disposal, or any similar use that is visible from a public street, right of way, or adjoining property, shall be screened with a buffer yard screening and plantings type A, section, type A, option 1 standards listed in this section provided for, which the screenings are. And then if you go to our number 1, there are no plantings in section A, option 1. It's only a 6-foot screening. So our wording automatically, you can't use plantings, and they're gonna have to have a 6-foot fence all the way around that place if they're gonna,
Well, I would say all the place, it would be around the area where the outdoor storage would be.
or parking, or, I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Repair, processing, manufacturing, salvage, refuse.
So he's got to screen his dumpster. Yeah, he would have to do
He's also got
that.
to screen his building.
Well, you got to remember, he's
You
got a
have-
forest, he's got a buffer around that property when you go look it up on the aerial.
But it doesn't work. It has to be a 6-foot screening with, that's a fence.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
that's what I'm
That's,
getting
that's,
at with the
Robbie
board is
will
that-
have to sit down with him and we'll look and see on the compliance.
Your point is less about making people comply, as if you're not gonna make them comply, why have it in there? You know,
That's exactly.
Your
Why-
point is,
why
why
are
are we,
Why do we have it in here?
why are we
and then-
articulating all this stuff if we have no
And
ambition
then,
to?
and then you go and make one person do this and you don't make everybody.
yeah.
There's where.
That's a good point.
That's not a special use permit section.
No, this is just.
No, that's
this
the
is just under
general buffering and
general
screening requirements.
4-200.15. I mean, that covers just about everything. And then you go to off-street parking. If you park a vehicle off-street, then it's required, I mean, we have all these regulations or whatever that no one enforces, and then when someone gets enforced on, then they're the person that gets made out to be the bad person. If you're gonna have the rules, then enforce them, and if you're not gonna enforce them, then get rid of them and say it's a free-for-all. And I mean, I know that there has to be some, like the handicap and everything else, but
Yeah.
the whole object of it is that we've got literally a book.
And the problem in some of that is when the state comes in and says, this is ag exempt, your zoning doesn't apply, throw the book out. And that really, and that's what they did. That, events, retreat, events facilities, all those things
That's
or don't have to comply with zoning because the state exempted it.
Right. But with manufacturing things, it doesn't really, because a special use permit, I guess that doesn't change the zoning, it changes.
Doesn't change the zoning, doesn't change the screening requirements. They'll still have to comply with those things.
Because if that's true, then the facility that they already have is completely out of compliance. And we've just given them another go-ahead
Where's his current facility?
on Plum Creek Road.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if he was legal on Plum Creek Road or if he had a permit to operate or not. I think part of this may be him trying to get a legal,
No, he went through that,
did he have a special use permit for the
Yes.
county? Okay.
but it's, not to belabor you all's point and keep you all here all night, I don't have anything else to do for next week. I mean, I brought this up for going on 7 years.
Yeah, but you're right.
So,
I
so
mean,
what's the solution? To enforce all the rules or to go through and get rid of some of the rules?
Either or, that's what I'm getting at. I mean, I get phone calls all the time about something, somebody says, why isn't such and such happening? And I say, well, that's what the ordinance says. Case in point, right across the road from the landfill right now, since those trees have been cut, there's all kinds of vehicles and things there it's no longer in compliance.
Well, I think that's why we have Mr. County Attorney going through the ordinance, redoing them now. It's just gonna take, it's a process, so it's gonna be a slow process, but you're right.
7 years is a slow process.
Yeah,
I'm
but-
not gonna live long enough to see 2 of them change.
Me either, probably, but some of them will probably get changed. We probably won't see all of them, but we've been talking about, prior to Mr. Stanley's, arrival coming to Prince Edward, that always been an issue.
What, I guess my issue is that if we're gonna issue a special use permit, then we need to make sure that they know what's required. And maybe that's what I'm trying to say is,
And I didn't sit down with Robbie when he was sat down and went through the code
which
requirements.
is any of them. I'm just
Yeah.
using
Yeah.
Nathan because I know them well.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that, you know, a facility that we just allowed them to put into place, and we didn't say, you know, that you've got to screen this from your neighbors and from the road and from anything else. It's a requirement. The special use permit doesn't take that away.
No. That's a requirement of the
And there's
ordinance.
buildings, Lou asked about one, when he first came on the board, right at the corner of 460 and I guess that's Phillips Road, it used to be the Phillips Farm right there, where the gentleman has all the stuff stored, and there's no screening there whatsoever, and I know that you asked about it twice. I asked about it because I've been getting phone calls about it, and it's still, there's, to my knowledge, there's nothing been done.
I think we've sent letters. I think Robbie sent letters on those. Yeah,
A lot of these things may be 20 years old.
Yeah.
Things change in 20 years. And like we're getting things updated, they gotta be updated on a regular basis,
But-
not just one time.
But I'd say, you know, when you got Wawa coming in, you won't be arguing about, well, do we have to pave the parking lot or can we go with gravel? Or, you know, that we gotta raise the bar on the standard and try to get it. Well, yes, we have a lot of uses in this county that don't meet the bar, right? So we're trying to get everybody to meet minimum
I'm not
requirements.
saying that we don't, I'm saying that those people need to know
Yeah,
what's
and
required.
they
of them.
may, like I said, they may, I don't know the answer to that. Yeah.
Right, but as a board member, especially in my district, I wanna make sure that they know what's required, then before they go start something.
Well, they should before they,
Then you-
before they buy the property, right? That's
Well,
ideally. So they know what they
Ideally,
get
but
into
even
it,
if they
yeah.
bought it, I mean, once they put that building up and someone says you've also gotta have a 6-foot fence all the way around that building, they need to know that up front.
And that's why hopefully we can require the site plan and all that stuff, the details, all this stuff before they build the building, before they go that next step.
There's another one right up the road that don't have a fence.
Well, that's, and I'm getting.
Well, I'd say most everything, especially on,
That's in my district too, but I'm getting phone call
Eh.
after phone call as to why is all that stuff stored outside, not screened from public view?
pretty much every old use on West Third Street wouldn't comply with the ordinance requirements.
But some of those were there before,
Maybe before zoning were in
Right.
place, yeah.
but the other one is not. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a.
Dust is another issue right there. These windy, dry days, and the dust is just blowing across the road, it's a cloud.
Yeah, you can't see on 460 if it comes across there. It's a.
It's another major issue right there.
There's a book here if any of y'all want to read it. I've read this thing. I've set up tonight after not reading it. I'll just tell you all. Seriously.
You are an insomnia resistant individual.
Yeah, we have two more, Mr. Chairman, on the addendum pack, table pack. Trey, you want to touch on, I've already kind of touched on the radio system, but I know you may want to add a couple things.
I keep it brief. Doug, he pretty much gave you the overview on it, but we've been sitting down, we had a meeting, a Zoom call with CTA, with the consultants, try to get a better timeline of the events. I know it's budget time, and I know finances are always an important factor to factor into a decision like this. But really, this is the next step to get us that hard financial number to make that smart plan and move into the future. In y'all's table pack, you've got there, I think it's 9 pages or 10 pages. It really breaks down more of what the next step is detailed wise. But really, this is the step that's gonna give us those hard numbers to say the system is gonna cost you X. This is your payment plan, you know, like Doug said, hopefully we can get a 12 to 15 year payment plan when we move forward to that project. But we may be 2 to 3 years, physical years out before that first true payment is due. But we won't know that unless we get this next phase.
So it's 100% reimbursable, right?
100% reimbursable. You
I
already
move that the
approved the
board of
appropriation.
supervisors approve the request, move forward with phase 2 of the project to develop a procurement document, evaluation proposal, and contract analysis. It's 100% reimbursable.
Money's already there.
I have a motion.
We just
Second.
gotta spend it.
And seconded. David?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Bill? Dessa?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
And my vote is yes.
The other
Got
item,
it, Trey.
the other item, Mr. Chair, is, and don't ask me why this always happens, but every spring, we're asked to approve the locality agreement for the current year's health department. So we only got a few months left of the fiscal year, but we're approving the agreement for the budget we're currently in that y'all approved last spring. So the proposed agreement reflects the budget of $171,490.61 in local match funding. And also it was an additional $2,385.39 that y'all approved as a match last year, I think, on return funds. So the total is $173,876 even. Again, we're almost done with the year, so it doesn't make much
Their
sense.
money.
But you still got to approve it.
Need a motion for approval?
Yes, sir.
So moved.
Second.
Made and seconded. David?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Bill?
Yeah.
Dessa?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes.
My vote is yes. Is there any more pages? Are we there yet?
We're there.
I think we're there.
All right, next thing is got written here, motion to recess.
7 o'clock.
At 7. Do we need a vote?
So
Motion?
moved.
All right.
Second.
David, one more
Yes.
time. Jerry?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Shannon?
Yes.
Bill? Dessa?
Yes.
Patty?
Yes.
Harrison?
Yes, sir.
And mine is yes, 7 o'clock, the 18th of April.
Hey, Jimmy.
Hit the hammer.
Adjourn or recess.
Take care.
Knock the phone out.